Since time immemorial, mankind has fought over the great questions. Are we alone in the universe? What is the meaning of life? What is the greatest anime of all time? A long time ago, my friends and I set out to answer those questions, but it turns out that spaceships are really expensive. So we're taking some time to answer the anime one. And today, we are joined by a very special guest in doing so.
I'm Tristan.
I'm Miles.
I'm Geoff.
And I'm Josh Strife Hayes. Welcome.
Woo! And this is Quest for the Best.
Yeah!
That, for something we didn't plan,
That worked
out pretty well.
That was okay.
I like that.
was good. Thank you for getting me on. Those are big questions, tough questions that man has asked since time immemorial. I think What is the Best Anime was asked by originally Jesus, and now we're all the way here. And I'm really glad that you've come to me, and so we can finally answer that, because it's a big question, but I've got the answer, so we can put it to bed after this.
Well, actually, funny story. It was originally asked by the Buddha, and like many things in Jesus's life story, it was just plagiarized from that.
Was that one? So the Buddha had the manga, and then when that was turned into an anime...
Yeah, when it was turned into an anime.
They
Yeah.
retconned it, so Jesus asked it. The Netflix adaptation is completely different.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of different changes as it goes through.
OVAs were originally a pagan ritual. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on. I've been a big anime fan all my life, watched lots of different things, managed to experience as much as I could, went to Japan recently and met up with a couple of the guys here as well, and that really kind of exacerbated and increased the exposure that I had to anime culture, so I was really happy to get home from there and just really indulge in as much anime as I possibly could. And I think that trying to find the best covers such a wide range of topics, such a broad spectrum of ideas, that we're going to get into some real nitty-gritty about what makes something the best of any given thing today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've picked a really good one for us to talk about, an important one. But before we get to that anime, Josh, why don't you tell the viewers at home a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Josh Strife Hayes. I work mainly on YouTube and Twitch. I have a couple of YouTube channels. The most popular one is called Josh Strife Hayes, and I cover MMORPG games such as RuneScape, Final Fantasy XIV, Guild Wars 2, Elder Scrolls Online, things like that. I have a series called Worst MMO Ever, where I play as many games as I can from the bottom of the barrel and see if I can find fun within them. I have a second channel called Josh Strife Plays, where I review retro video games from the PlayStation 1, PS2, N64, and early PC era. I have a third channel called Josh Strife Says, which is clips from my Twitch stream, which is also Josh Strife Hayes. Then I have Josh Strife Replays, which is full Twitch VODs from the Twitch channel, which is Josh Strife Hayes, but not Josh Strife Plays, but on Josh Strife Replays. And then I have one video on the channel Josh Strife Games, which is me working out to Dark Souls, called Dark Swoles. So I'm a video game guy, pretty much.
And now we've dragged you into anime.
Absolutely. I love anime. I'm a big fan of it. I think the anime that I've chosen is a little bit more niche, a little bit more obscure, so we'll get in some rather esoteric knowledge with it, but I think it has a lot to say.
Yeah, I mean, originally when we talked about doing this, you mentioned you might want to do the very popular mainstream anime, Steins Gate.
Well, I feel that every English schoolboy, as I am one of, goes through a period of watching and rewatching Steins Gate. I think that Steins Gate was a cornerstone of English cultural tradition between about 1999 to the mid-2000s, and obviously everything has been said about Steins Gate already. I say Steins Gate, I guarantee every single person listening to this chat has already seen it at least twice. Everyone in England has a small shrine to Steins Gate in the corner of the room, so I don't think there's much I could add, but I will get into Steins Gate later. It does have a very special place in my heart for the time in my life that I did watch it and the situation I watched it in.
Whereas you've decided to pick something a little more obscure.
I want to challenge myself. I want to challenge the viewers to really kind of push the boundaries of what they think anime can be.
Expand their horizons, watch something they haven't seen before.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole new world we live in.
And that anime?
That anime is a rather niche, unknown show called Pokemon.
And we will be talking about that. But first, we have to answer our question of the week, which is, if you were an enemy in a video game, what loot would you drop?
Would you like me to answer that first, or are we all answering together?
Feel free, Josh.
Okay, well, it's a trick question. I wouldn't die. I would be a cutscene boss. I would turn up toward the end of the game, say something really impressive, teasing at a sequel, which would then never be made because the first game doesn't sell very well. However, if you were to get the game on PC and go into the files, you'd find that I probably drop a vest that increases your charisma by 1.
Which at the end of the game is probably the most useful thing you could
completely
possibly
useless.
receive.
One of those things where you get the best sword or the best weapon or the best gun by killing the final boss, and you're like, I get to equip it and experience equipping it, and then the game restarts.
Yes. And it doesn't even give you a new game plus.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. Or what I would do is I would actually be one of those awful bosses. I'd be the very first boss you ever fight, and I would drop like a mega elixir or a super useful potion at the very start of the game, which of course means that no one is ever using that because you have to save it until the end of the game, and then the game finishes and you still haven't used it.
So here's the thing. The economist to me never lets me do that. I'm the kind of guy who's like, if I don't miss one flight a year, I'm arriving too early to the airport. I'm wasting my time at the airport. So I always use my items in video games. I always end every video game as close to 0 as possible.
That's actually cheating. That's not allowed. I understand that's fully within the realm of the game, but the designers didn't expect you to do that. When they give you a potion at the start of the game, that's a test. That's a test to see if you can get through without using it. The fact that you used all the mechanics the video game gives you, nobody ever expected that.
No.
That's the same kind of scrub move as using assists in Dark Souls.
Look, okay, I'm going to be elitist here, okay? If you completed Dark Souls, but you used your hands at all, you didn't complete Dark Souls, all right? I need you using the controller with your feet.
Yeah, only DDR and Guitar Hero controller runs of Dark Souls are acceptable.
You need to just scream at the microphone to control it. If you haven't done that, then you haven't really played the true Dark Souls. To anyone unsure, we are taking the piss. If you want to play video games however you want, that's absolutely fine.
Except for me. Yeah. Like I said, if I finish a video game with any money left, I feel like it's a failure, right?
Are you standing there at the final shop trying to work out the most efficient way of spending all your gold? Being like, I don't even need these, but I'm going to spend it.
Me and you, Miles, are like so polar opposite. I remember freaking out one of my good friends when I was playing Pokemon, of all things, when I was very young, because he would watch me play occasionally. And he also owned the game, but, I had Pokemon Stadium, so I could play it on the big screen. And he was just like, why aren't you spending your money? And I'm like, why would I need to spend my money? And he's just like, shouldn't you buy like more potions to have them? And I'm like, I guess, but why? And then he shows me his game and he has like no money because he buys all the potions. He doesn't really go back to the Pokemon Center at all. He just uses potions. He buys the revives. He buys the full heals. He has like, he buys like 5 to 10 of each individual ailment recovery thing. And I'm just like, you're not going to use most of that. Just go to a Pokemon Center.
That's absolutely insane. He's prepared. He's like, in his mind, he's 10 years old preparing for an actual journey in the wilderness. He's like, I need 5 of everything. Nothing is poisoning me. Nothing is putting me to sleep. Nothing is paralyzing me.
But which is wild because if you've actually played a Pokemon game, almost nothing is paralyzing you because they almost never give that affliction to anything that you have to fight in the entire game.
Yeah, and then you just switch things out. I mean, Pokemon Generation 1, the video games, was just an absolute pile of jank and wishes that somehow worked as a game. Yeah. The fact they managed to get so much stuff onto such a small cartridge, we can talk about the games specifically later, but we do need to point out that the Pokemon anime was technically based on a video game. Yeah. Which means that Pokemon the first movie is actually a video game movie.
Arguably the best video game movie of its time.
Without a doubt.
Heavy on the arguably.
Well, I mean, there were, you're right.
It's not even the best Pokemon movie.
Tristan, I liked you. We were getting on really well. I thought we were bonding, there was a vibe going on. You're putting up barriers now, man.
I'm sorry. No, well, I mean, like the end of Pokemon the first movie is usually what gets me compared to Pokemon 2000, which is my personal favorite Pokemon movie. If for no other reason than I'm heavily biased towards Lugia. I think Lugia is a boss, and I love Lugia.
I mean, that airship is really cool. That whole design.
Also, I was one of the people that got the limited edition Mew card.
He still got it.
Yeah, I got it. Well, because I was living with my mom over the summers in Newfoundland here in Canada, and the theater got a whole bunch of them, but there was a lot of there was not as much demand as they were expecting.
Do you have it displayed anywhere?
It is with the rest of my Pokemon cards in a box at my old set.
Okay, Miles is going to need blueprints and an address and specific timings of security guards around the place.
Yes, a resident Magic Cube owner absolutely wants to know where my limited edition Mew is.
The funny thing is, I missed out on the bonus card with the first Pokemon movie because my dad worked for a newspaper. And the reviewer who got a free ticket to the preview of the Pokemon movie, either he couldn't go or he just wasn't interested in reviewing the Pokemon movie because he was an adult man and it was 1997 or 98. And, so I got to see an advanced screening of Pokemon, the first movie, before anybody else. And I absolutely flexed on everybody on the playground.
But without an Electabuzz, which, by the way, was a terrible promo for that movie.
Absolutely atrocious. Yeah. Ancient Mew was much better.
Ancient Mew was that's what people think of when you say the Pokemon promo. You like the cool Ancient Mew design.
Yeah. I do know there was more than just Electabuzz, though, wasn't there? Because it had the small little symbol. I had at least Electabuzz. I can't remember. I think I had one other of the.
My brother got a Pikachu. There's a Mewtwo, I think.
Might have been a Pikachu.
But the idea that so many people experience the same culture, the same thing, the same system. This is one of the discussions I want to get into later about the fact that Pokemon was so ubiquitous with culture around the 90s. It collectively gave almost everyone globally a bonding experience that people from various creeds, various cultures, various lifestyles can all get together and say, do you remember the Pokemon movie? And everyone's got a story about that, which I think is beautiful within itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everybody's got a favorite Pokemon, too. But before we can get into that...
What would you drop, Geoff?
What would I drop? Oh, man. Just like a bunch of anime crap. I don't know, like Dungeon Crawler Carl books. What would I drop? What do you guys think I'd drop?
Oh, what do I think you would? I have no idea what you drop. See, Josh gave us a lot of context, which was really helpful. So it's like, in this kind of video game, in this scenario, here's how I'm gonna die or not die.
What I would imagine, Geoff, is that it would be very similar to if somebody had a particular enchantment on their sword in Minecraft and they killed you and your head popped down. Except in this case, not your head, but your U2s would drop. And everybody could get a copy of your YouTubes.
There you go. That's what it is. See, my memory of you specifically was when you very graciously took time out of your day, and I think we met in Nakano Broadway, and you took me to this kind of pizza joint down some side alleys and down some side streets.
Yeah,
and you very graciously ordered the pizza for us, and you ordered the drinks for us, and you made sure that we're very much taken care of. So in my mind, you just drop a pizza. That's what it would be.
Hey, healing items, that's fine.
You'd fall over, you'd drop a healing pizza, and I'd be like, oh, that's a shame. But I would eat the pizza and then just leave you.
Was that the same pizza place you took me and I think Chloe to?
Yeah.
That was a great place.
Now it's less special. Yeah. Now it's much less special. I thought
No, Josh, here's what happened. He took it to Josh, and he's like, guys, I want you to relive a memory I had with Josh. This was so special to me. I want to share it with more people.
And it was mostly because we were going to meet up with Miles, and then Miles had to bail on us for other reasons. So we were like, I guess we're going to go and get pizza.
Yeah, Josh, you were in Japan first, so we did it with you first. So that's
brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Now everyone knows your system. Everyone that visits you in Japan is going to be like, "Where's the pizza place, Geoff? Let's go."
I mean, like it's
a good
like
pizza place.
It's really good. It's legit Neapolitan pizza, like wood fire. If you
don't give it too much because we don't want to dox you.
One really good pizza place.
Oh, I mean, it's near Nakano Broadway, which is one of the big tourist spots. So I don't think
it was a big place. It was very nice. Yeah. So I enjoyed that. Yeah, you drop a pizza, you drop a healing item.
Yeah, I'll take that. Miles, what are you? I mean, I know what you're dropping.
No, in 90% of situations, it's going to be napkins. So I have been a dad longer than I was a dad, and so whenever there's free napkins anywhere, I just jam my pockets full of them because you never know. And I always need napkins. There are always scenarios where either I need napkins, someone else needs a napkin, someone just like blows their nose and I can pull a napkin out of my pocket really quick. Like I'm ready. So I would mostly just, when I die, I turn into just like a
puff of napkins.
A puff of napkins, yeah.
Like a magician that just has countless napkins.
I figured you'd drop your magic cube.
No, I mean, it's heavy. I actually have
No, he would drop a key to a vault.
I would not drop a bunch of magic cards.
I'm building a magic deck literally right now. I've got the entire desk is covered in Magic the Gathering cards right in front of me.
Oh no. That's a side quest waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I love the fact that you said because you're a dad. I thought in that case, if you die, you're dropping backstory. You're dropping lore. You're dropping a sad side quest. You're dropping an avenging storyline. That's what that would be.
Well, I mean, the other thing I was thinking in that same way, if I was like a boss level fight, then I'd be dropping a USB code with all the secret anime information in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it does depend on if we're just a regular enemy or a boss, right?
I think in most circumstances, I'm just turning into napkins, though.
Yeah. Most likely, yeah.
99% chance napkins, 1% USB drive with all the secrets of the anime universe.
Grind on that, motherfuckers.
Therefore, you're a boss. Get grinding. Kill you again and again and again. The golden napkin eventually.
What about you, Tristan?
The two that I have, one would just be, instead of napkins, just a whole bunch of Twinings Earl Grey tea. Which I keep on all of my travel bags, purely because I'm a caffeine fiend, and sometimes when I can't have coffee, I will have tea, and I just need water. Doesn't even need to be hot, and I will just have Earl Grey tea, and it'll be fine. So I have a lot of that. If I was a boss, the first thing, oddly enough, that popped into my head of what would you drop as loot, my base experience when it comes to loot drops was playing far too much Borderlands 2 back in the day, and so the first thing that popped into my head is that I would drop a very specific sniper rifle from Borderlands 2 called the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Choice. Good game as well, Borderlands 2. Classic, enjoyable multiplayer fun.
Mm-hmm. That specific DLC, not great, but the gun, really good. I like.
Which one was that from? Was that the...
That was the Captain Scarlet DLC, the first Borderlands 2 DLC, the not good one. Like,
Gotcha,
it had its moments, but it was also like the first time that they had done that deal, like the DLC for Borderlands 2, and it was very much a growing pains sort of thing as they went on.
Because they grew into the Tiny Tina's dungeon kind of keep thing, didn't they? Which was a very good DLC,
Yes,
but you have to learn from the mistakes of the past to be able to get to the good stuff of the future.
Yeah, pretty much. So that would be what I would imagine myself dropping.
Twinning specifically?
Yeah, because that's what I happen to have.
Is that all you have in Canada?
It's not all I have in Canada, but barring like going and getting loose leaf, like if I'm just going to walk into any grocery store and be guaranteed to have a type of Earl Grey, that'll be it.
Fair enough. I know what I'm getting you for Christmas now.
You're going to be adding to a massive pile already. It's just going to get thrown in the back. I have so much tea. And I love it. And I have it all the time. But comparatively, I have a lot of tea. We had a bit of a discussion on what we were going to do for our side quest very briefly on Discord beforehand, because we were talking about one particular thing. And then as we started recording, I remembered, hey, the last time that we did a guest episode with Songwon Cho, we had an escort quest for him, and it was basically just like letting him take the mic and explain like his stuff with anime. So we could do that, Josh, if you just wanted to explain how you got into anime and things like that. Or we have the other thing that we discussed on our Discord earlier today, where we just have a talk about Pokemon versus Digimon.
So I'm happy to do both. I can break both down into 10 minutes, but I'll give a very brief kind of overview. I was a very stereotypical English 90s kid. So that meant that morning cartoons before school or Saturday morning or Sunday morning was either CBBC or ITV or CITV. And we had the general English cartoons. We had some of the American cartoons coming over. It was mostly things like Scooby-Doo, Dexter's Lab, the Powerpuff Girls. It was Cartoon Network if I went round to my grandparents' house because they could afford Sky TV and we couldn't at home. And it was the general stereotypical Western with a slight touch of Eastern. And I remember when I was a kid, there was a show on TV called Shin-Chan, and I thought, this is really weird. I'm not going to watch anything from the East ever again. Why would anyone watch this? The animation style is weird, the plot makes no sense, the voice acting is terrible. Put Dexter's Lab back on, put on the high-quality Powerpuff Girls, put Courage the Cowardly Dog on. That always made sense. So I had a bit of a kind of tumultuous relationship at the very start of my early life with anime. And then obviously I would see posters for anime and I would see my friends talking about it. But I think the first anime show that really changed my life, if you will, was when I started university, in the first year of university, when I moved into the student accommodation. I was living with a really nice guy at the time called Jordan, lovely dude. And we didn't have internet in our student house for the first month of moving in because the landlord was still sorting it out. And I hadn't packed much or brought anything over because I just assumed, well, I'm going to download stuff. I'm going to play RuneScape. I'm going to play World of Warcraft. I'm going to enjoy the internet. And there was nothing there for a while. And then Jordan came over and said, hey, Josh, I've got my laptop with me and I've got a couple of anime shows downloaded. There's one I think you'll really like called Steins Gate. So my memory of watching Steins Gate was sitting on this terrible student couch with Jordan with his laptop popped up and the screen backlit didn't work very well. So we had to make sure the room was super dark. And I just binged the entire series in one go. And it was only about 14 episodes. But when it finished, I'm like, oh my God, that was phenomenally good. That was excellent. Fantastic pacing, good characters, really interesting animation. I am feeling things that I didn't think a cartoon would be able to make me feel. And I said, oh, this is amazing. And I think I used the word cartoon and Jordan went, no, stop, go back. This is an anime. It's different. And then he explained the difference to me. And then I thought, well, there's probably more of this. So I went out and discovered and watched kind of as many things as I could. I thought, well, I found this slightly underground, unknown film called Akira. I'll give that a go. That was quite good. I found this other unknown film called Ninja Scroll. I'll give that a go. That was quite good. What else is kind of underground and makes me look cool? Fist of the North Star. Sounds great. Let's watch that. Then we find JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is really weird. What are we doing? No. Carry on. Push through. Oh my God, this is amazing. Possibly the best thing I've ever seen. Then it gets weird again. Then it gets good again. It's a roller coaster of emotions the whole way through. But my relationship with anime, I think, has always been one of trying to find something that was speaking to me emotionally at the time. And I never watched, for example, Dragon Ball. I never watched Dragon Ball Z, but I can remember in primary school having a friend, and I would go to friends' houses after school, and they would say, okay, Josh, I understand that you're around to play games with us right now. We're going to play some PlayStation. We're going to hang out and play board games. But for the next 20 minutes, I need you to just shut up because I'm going to sit on the couch and watch Dragon Ball Z. And so I just sat on the couch with my friend, and we were both 10, and he was just fully invested in 20 minutes of a man yelling. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And then he turned to me and said, do you want to watch more? Because there's Jackie Chan Adventures on next. And I'm like, all right, I can get into it. Jackie Chan Adventures, absolute top show. Loved it. Yumo Gwe out, fantastic.
Absolutely goated,
and everything as well. And then I just it was never a focus of my life, but it was always kind of there in the background, waiting, looming. And then I discovered, and everyone will hate me for this, that I really like shonen fight anime. I got so into My Hero Academia. People were like, oh my God, you absolute basic bitch. I can't believe that you're watching this show without watching some random unknown show. I'm like, no, shut up. I am fully invested. I know the good guys are going to win. But the music, the animation, the emotion, the voice acting, sometimes I just want to win. Sometimes I just want to see a big buff guy punch an evil dude in the face while an orchestral score soars in the background and makes me feel good about myself. I've got an actual statue of All Might over in the corner right now. He inspires me.
Bit of a shame that you never got into Dragon Ball as a kid then.
I changed that. I discovered that it was on either Netflix or Amazon Prime or something, and I sat down about 2 months ago and just binged all of Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, right,
2 months ago.
Wow. I want to know what's going through this. So I just sat down and watched. And a week later, I came out of my cave and I'm like, oh man, that Frieza. But no, I really got into it. I understand. I get why Goku is the iconic idea of Goku now. I 100% fully get it. And when people are like, I used to say, obviously Superman would beat Goku in a fight. But now I'm thinking, well, are Goku's friends in danger? Because that's going to affect his power level quite substantially. How much friendship is involved in this fight?
There's also the fact that, Superman may win the first time, but Goku's going to come back.
Oh, he's going to train.
He always comes back.
He's going to train. He's going to get better. He's going to go back to King Kai. He's going to come back down Snake Way. He's going to jump the entire way there. It's going to be brilliant. There's going to be progress. And that's what I came to appreciate. So to me, anime has always been not necessarily a main focus, but it has slowly crept insidiously and beautifully into my life and now become such an entrenched thing that I am very proud to enjoy. I would say in many ways I have become kawaii. I think occasionally I ooh-woo when I'm streaming, and that's a very important thing to... If you can't handle me at my senpai, then you don't deserve that kind of stuff, So yeah, it's very much become something that I've come to respect and come to enjoy. And I think Pokemon, that I'm going to talk about at length soon, is something that has culturally brought the entire world together in a way that very little has before.
Yeah. I can say that I fully respect you for being able to do that last bit and not crack at
Oh,
all,
I've said
like
it so
me and
many
Geoff
times.
totally did.
Oh no,
Miles a
fully
little bit,
embraced-
but not to the
I've
same
embraced the
extent.
cringe within me. I understand it's part of me. It's there, and I'm okay with that.
Josh also, I imagine, does some improv practice, which helps with not breaking.
Oh,
Whilst-
so I had an improv comedy show called Session Zero, which is a touring improv Dungeons and Dragons show where we throw a big plushy dice into the audience and they throw it back for the rolls and we improv an adventure. I was a full-time theatre actor before I moved into doing YouTube and Twitch full-time, and I very much miss theatre performance, but improv on stage and the immediate bounce back and forth. I've been lucky enough to be brought up on stage with many improv actors who I greatly admire and greatly respect. Have you ever seen a show called The Dark Room with a comedian called John Robertson?
The Dark Room!
Yes, well,
Yes.
John brought me on stage once for one of the shows that he was doing and kind of kept me there the whole time, just gently teasing me and forcing me to do tasks while he was performing, which was a great honor to be on stage with
I
that guy.
actually
But to
think
see-
I watched that. Like about 6 months ago, I was cataloging the entire shelf behind me, and I just had Dark Room playing on in the background while I was trying to go through everything.
He's brilliant. In fact, John and I did a sponsored stream for Borderlands 4 recently, where we sat down and played through together, and someone commented saying, this is the best advert for Borderlands 4 because they don't talk about the game at all. Which I think was very true and very honest. But no, thank
That's
you, Geoff.
why I
have
mentioned
had a lot of improv
Borderlands
stuff.
2 when I
Yeah, I
brought
said,
it up.
there are many good Borderlands games.
There are.
Borderlands 2. And now we're going to play Borderlands 4.
Hey, Tales from the Borderlands.
Tales from the
is pretty good.
Borderlands,
That
the
was
first
good.
one.
Tales from the Borderlands was a decent one. I always forget it exists. And one day, but when the stream started, I said, welcome everyone. We're going to play Borderlands. You may know it from the film Borderlands.
Oh god. Oh man. I've been trying to put together like a unifying theory of how to adapt a video game for a really long time. So I went to see Borderlands in theaters, and like all
Just
I
don't
took
do that.
away from it was don't do any of that.
Yeah, don't do any of that. Just watch the Pokemon
Like-
movie. There you go. That's adapting a video game.
It never occurred to me that Jack Black violently crapping himself could be that unfunny. But like,
he's so skilled, he made it unfunny.
he made it like completely drained all of the humor from that. Like,
But Crap Trap is supposed to be unfunny. That's
Only
the
Jack Black
joke.
could have done that. Yeah. Now, video game films are without a doubt a special type of torture, although I do have a soft spot in my heart for the original Street Fighter film or the Dead or Alive film, because they are just uniquely terrible, obviously.
Yeah, you know, you should actually like if anime video game adaptations are something that interests you, you should go back and potentially revise your opinion on Pokemon being the best anime movie of its time by watching some of the old Street Fighter and Fatal Fury OVAs, because those get crazy.
I will absolutely give that a go. I don't genuinely think that Pokemon the first movie was the best animated movie of that time, but I do think it definitely culturally brought people together the most because of its impact on kind of general viewing habits and the fact they gave out a free card, which collectors hoped became super valuable, and they were right.
Depends on your definition of super valuable, because like you're comparing it to like a first edition Charizard.
Oh god, yeah, I mean those things are crazy now. The first edition Shadowless Charizards are mental, and everyone had one. Everyone says, "Oh, I always had one of those." No, you had a Shadowed Charizard. Sit down, they're different.
Yeah,
I've got strong feelings on
I did
this.
not have a first edition Charizard. I just had a Holo Charizard, and I was quite happy
From the starter
with what I
pack.
had.
Yeah. Yeah, they were good. They were still cool.
Yeah.
So yes, that was my kind of experience with anime. It has slowly crept into my life and become a greater part of it. And I've come to appreciate it and respect it. When I walked around Japan, the amount of anime and the amount of art that is kind of beautifully culturally relevant was very satiating for the soul. And I can see that the second question specifically for SideQuest is remarkably interesting because it actually mentions another anime. Do you want to ask that to me?
Sure.
Which do you prefer, Pokemon or Digimon?
That's a good question. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm glad you did. So I think that, and this is true, Digimon's designs are amazing because I'm convinced they were designed by a guy on all the drugs and he didn't think twice about what he was doing. Like Pokemon went, all right, fish, bigger fish. Okay, bird, slightly bigger bird, little bit bigger bird. Worm, bigger worm, dragon. Kind of makes sense. Digimon, they
like
went,
if we're feeling spicy, dog that's on fire.
And if we're not spicy, seal. It is just a seal?
Yeah, exactly. But Digimon, the guy just went, all right, cool. Mouse, fridge, jet. That's what they went. They just went stupid over the top.
Yeah, and it's amazing. One of the interesting things about Digimon designs, people are always like, "Oh man, it's so horny," right? Like you see all the like Angelwomon, Devimon, anything with woman in it, usually. But like there's just a lot of like borderline hentai designs in the like higher level female Digimon. And like the thing is, that makes perfect lore sense when you understand that Digimon are all the result of random data from the internet coming together.
Absolutely. That's what it is. It's the idea of the person using the Digidevice to digivolve things, and it takes into account the personality and the feelings and the idea, because if the person running it is like, I really need to win this fight, I hope I get a massive dragon clad in metal armor that can also breathe lasers. Cool, that might happen. But there's someone there going, I really hope they've got big tits. And then Angelwoman comes out and he's there going, this worked. I may lose the battle, but I think I've won the war.
Best of both worlds, actually, with Angelwomon.
Absolutely.
TK was a freak at 9 years old.
Yeah, they got it. They absolutely got it. They nailed it. They understood the assignment very, very much. And the Digimon card game, the original version, I don't think was amazing because I can't work with numbers above 1,000 repeatedly. But the new Digimon card game, the kind of remake of it, I actually really enjoyed. I think it's got excellent mechanics. I think it's got a really smooth gameplay loop. You guys played the new Digimon card game?
Not the new one, no.
I've played it like very briefly, so I can't like give like a solid review of it. But
I played
like,
the old one back in the day. Like some people attempted to, especially if you were trying to keep away from the people that just dominated Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Discussions.
The old one was so convoluted. The new one is, I mean, it's kind of a similar template to what Bandai did with the new One Piece card game, which is like going crazy right now. But like similar resource system. And yeah, it's just a solid, well-designed game from everything that I've seen.
The new Digimon card game is very smooth, very easy to play. Really, not sponsored, I just really like the game. But to compare Digimon versus Pokemon, I think that Digimon risked a lot by trying to be so unique and so individual and almost so out there that it alienated some parts of society that still saw anime as a little bit weird. Because Digimon was far more weird. Pokemon was very grounded in what people would effectively see as animals. I mean, it was inspired by the guy that collected bugs in jars, and he went, okay, what if we can create a collection of bugs? Digimon was inspired by the chaos and the creativity of the internet, which in its infancy was still a little bit off-putting to a lot of people. And if you had a grandparent or a parent going out to buy a set of cards for little Timmy, you'd probably go, oh, that's the Pikachu off the telly box. We'll get that. Not, oh, that's the massive fire-breathing dragon and the hot elf mage next to it. Let's not let them discover that until later.
I don't even know if they could put some of the Digimon in toy aisles. Like
Probably not.
They were pretty crazy. But like to me, that weirdness is exactly why I like when I was a kid. Like I played Pokemon. I watched the Pokemon anime. I loved it like everybody my age.
You had to be current with the trends and the times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was good, right? It was good.
I mean, yeah.
But Digimon just like grabbed me more. Like as soon as I saw it, like I mean, there's a few different things. For one thing, the anime's production values are a lot nicer, right? It's got like very, very thick line weighting and like very dynamic posing with the characters. The background art has all these like surreal little touches. Like it's still, you're walking through like a watercolor painting of a forest or whatever, but maybe that forest has some like random telephone booths in it, or like you're crossing a desert with like telephone poles stretching from one end to the other. There's like this surreal clash of like the real world and this digital interpretation of it that was just, I think, more evocative to my imagination. And then also like the characters have real arcs built in from like the word go, right? Like Tai has that like that courage to him. that like he's always going to stick up for his friends, but also he charges into danger and causes problems, and like that's something that he has to grapple with as he grows. Matt really cares about his friends, but also he's like sensitive to rejection, and that like plays out across the course of the story. Joe is a worrywart, but when it comes down to it, he's the most reliable guy on the crew. And like everybody has like good points and bad points, and the story really gets into what makes these people tick and what they need to do to grow. And like, to me, that ongoing narrative was something that was missing from most of the cartoons that I was watching at the time, the Courages and the Dexter's Labs. Even though I liked those, I was like, I really like this feeling of I'm going on a journey with these characters and they're growing. And I think that getting addicted to that when I was really young is a big part of why I ended up loving anime so much from such an early age. Because like Digimon's the more anime, I think, of the two. In terms of how weird and risk taking and not brand safe in some ways it is. And yeah, to me, that was always why I thought it was better.
I think you're spot on. The idea that the Western anime was always very episodic. It was very, nothing changes at the end. It has to reset to a start, which effectively was emulating the American sitcoms at the time. Seinfeld famously said, it's a show in which nothing happens. And I think the Western creation idea was very much based in that. You must start and you must end with the status quo being maintained, like Scooby-Doo. Digimon went against that, and so was difficult to follow, but rewarding if you did. So, Tristan, you were saying?
Yeah. So how I kind of looked at it, and it took me a bit to remember this because it's like trying to get into my brain from like 25 years ago. I actually look at the story of Digimon a lot closer to like old tokusatsu, Power Rangers, Super Sentai sort of things, because a lot of the character archetypes are very similar, and especially like in character arcs over the course of the season, I thought that they were somewhat similar to the Power Rangers that I kind of grew up with, and I loved all of it, which is probably why like I got into it even more, because Power Rangers was never an extremely big thing, at least on my playgrounds. I know that probably varied depending on what school you went to and what people got into, but Power Rangers was never a big thing, and Digimon was almost kind of blasphemous on my playgrounds, because how dare this thing infect the sanctity of the greatness that was Pokemon.
The Pokemon ripoff. Yeah, everybody would be like, oh, it's just a Pokemon ripoff. So
I had a friend who was my best friend at the time, and when I suggested on my birthday that we should watch an episode of Digimon, like it made him look physically ill that he was about to actually go through with this. And then I was just like, no, I'm a better friend than that. I'm not going to force you through this, but come on.
A good friend would have forced him to watch Peak.
The thing is, a single episode wouldn't have done it, I don't think. And
probably
you guys are kind of perpetuating a false dichotomy, like Pokemon and Digimon. The only thing they really had in common was a bunch of weird critters and the Mon at the end of the name, right? Like when I was a kid, I thought of
branding's
Monster
important,
Rancher.
Miles.
Well, no, I know, but when I was a kid, I thought of Monster Rancher in the same like group, and I love Monster Rancher too. But like literally, The Sopranos came out in January of '99. Digimon Adventure came out in March in the US, and probably Canada and the UK not too long after, or around the same time.
Around the same time, yeah.
Literally, as TV was changing. Like there was, to your point, Josh, there was no serialized storytelling on TV at that point in time, and especially in kids media. We wouldn't get like Avatar for another like 5 years after that. Like we wouldn't get a lot of these more notable, longer story arcs.
And
so,
the ones that we did have, like DBZ, was stretched out so much.
And so for me, Digimon was before Dragon Ball. And so Digimon to me was the first anime that I got like obsessed with. Because Pokemon, I wasn't obsessed with the anime. I was obsessed with the anime as an extension of
the
Pokemon.
Games. Yeah.
Like
the franchise.
I was obsessed with Pokemon, the IP, if you want to be like that. Like I was obsessed with the idea of Pokemon more than anything else. And it's so funny to look at, like I have a 5-year-old, right? And when he was a year and a half, my wife has a big like pile of plushies that were all just like, a literal pile in our room at that point. Some of them were on a bookshelf. A lot of them had fallen over. And the one he picks out of all of them is a Pikachu. And like starting at like 18 months, will not let it go. To this day, will not let it go. He's obsessed with Pikachu to this day.
My 3-year-old is similar, except instead of the Pikachu, which we do have, she has a little Eevee, but the muffler around Eevee's neck came loose, and she refuses to leave it on. She always takes it off, and I'm like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like how you compared Digimon to The Sopranos. Like, we should have said, all these kids that were watching Digimon, no, come and watch The Sopranos instead, children. You need to understand narrative flow. Come and sit down. This is how it should process and progress. But this
is also how it should end.
This is how it should end. What I like is the Pokemon Digimon thing. I completely agree with one of the few things they had in common was the fact they ended in the phrase Mon and they aired at the same time, which means you created this dichotomy, this binary of Pokemon versus Digimon. One of them, and I completely agree with you, Geoff, is that Digimon is just objectively better in several of the creation aspects of it. The art is phenomenal. The production value is high. I often like to compare it to, there were 2 films released very close together. One was called Despicable Me, and one was called Megamind. And I think that Megamind is just better in almost every way.
In every way. Yeah, no, 100%.
But they both feature the villain winning, a support character called Minion, and they're both animated, which means, unfortunately, because they released so close together, they were forced to compete. Which means the winner of that competition goes on to have a massive global franchise, and the loser effectively gets forgotten about and relegated and pushed down into niche territory. Had they have released on their own originally without being in direct competition with each other, I think we would have seen a much greater success for Megamind. I think Pokemon and Digimon exist within the same area. If they were not competing with each other, I think each of them would have found a huge amount of individual success, but the competition was for the same market value in the same place.
I think that's more so for the global market, though, because if you just look at the Japan market, thankfully, Digimon has expanded, but Pokemon did have the global advantage.
Like the interesting thing is like Digimon like now is an enduring property in Japan. I mean, it kind of fell out for about the last 10 years. And like they were still putting shows on like Ghost Game and stuff. But like the amount of Digimon content being pumped out dropped off. And a lot of it was just like nostalgia baiting about the first series. Like they had like a sequel series like called Try. Yeah, which is all the adventure kids grown up doing more stuff. And it kind of sucked. And they did a remake of Digimon Adventure that also kind of sucked.
Wait, hold on both of those points. What? Try was pretty good.
Okay, try.
And the remake was excellent.
Try was pretty good. The remake was not excellent. The remake completely screwed up Skull Greymon. It makes it so that Skull Greymon just happens instead of it being a result of it. It destroys all of the character arcs. But
Digimon did have excellent video games, though. The video game quality of the Digimon games, Digimon World 2, Digimon Rumble, even the newer stuff, the Cyber Sleuth games that have come out recently, the quality of those blow Pokemon games out the water. Without a doubt.
The newest one, if you haven't seen it, Time Stranger, is like maybe the best JRPG of the year, and that's coming from people who've like played Expedition 33, played the Trails in the Sky remake. Just like it's amazing.
Well, Expedition 33 was a French game, so it's actually a JRPG. Thank you for letting me make the joke that I'm sure you've heard before.
Actually, no, that's the first time I've heard that one. Like, I mean, the new game, they spent like almost a decade making it. So it's like so much better than any Pokemon game that's come out, because every Pokemon
games are lazy. Pokemon, they've got complacent and they've got lazy.
I wouldn't say they're lazy. I would say that they're constrained by the marketing demands of Pokemon, because every single new Pokemon game, it has to have an anime tied to it. It has to have a bunch of toys tied to it. And that means that there's like 10 different corporations all having to coordinate their schedules.
And you can't delay anything.
You can't delay the game. You can't delay the anime. It's all got to come out at the same time. And
they've stretched that, like, historically, I think that the Pokemon Company has done a very good job at stretching that. Even if it's just, here's Leaf Green and Fire Red. That's
You guys liked the first game so much, have them 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
I mean,
we spent all this money making all of these sprites, guys. Let's turn it into like at least more than the 2-ish games that we do.
I mean, like, I don't really resent that. Like, I actually think that the generational remakes, at least those early ones, Heart Gold, Soul Silver,
They do well. Yeah, no.
I think they're some of the best games.
I'm not disparaging them at all, but I'm still pointing out. Yeah, I'm still pointing out how it is like it is a stretching of resources, and this is me saying they did a good job with that.
Well, to me, those are the best parts of the Pokemon game series because like they don't have to worry about developing a new engine and they don't have to worry about designing a whole new world. They can just worry about refining a game for over the course of a year.
A game that already exists.
Yeah, a game that already exists where they can like fix playtesting problems.
And they already made the sprites for the new gen, whichever gen that happens to be. So it's like, well, we already got the sprites, so let's just
Whereas like Digimon has an advantage in that respect because like Digimon's core thing is virtual pets. It was originally a Tamagotchi knockoff that existed before Pokemon. And basically Bandai saw the success that Nintendo was having with Pokemon and like they were already developing an anime based on the virtual toy, but they were like, we can make so much money off of this. So they like really pushed it. They went all in trying to capture that international market. And while ultimately they didn't really succeed, at least not to the level that they wanted to, like Digimon is still.
I mean, how many anime IP have card games that can sell anything in the West, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they succeeded to a certain degree, and that created in Japan this sort of cultural monolith. Like people, it's like Tristan said, like tokusatsu, there are people who are as into every new season of Digimon as they are into every new season of tokusatsu. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I mean, like the Digimon anime is managed by Toei, who have a whole tokusatsu filmmaking side. And like when we really get into talking about Pokemon, I think there's an interesting dichotomy there because Pokemon, rewatching it for this podcast, it really struck me how much it feels like a Showa era comedy, which I don't know if that means anything to you, Josh. But it kind of has the same vibe as Shin-chan and stuff like that of like, focusing on these formulaic gags every week and characters making goofy faces, doing goofy things, and like trying to come up with funny things to do with the idea of Pokemon, less so than trying to tell like a serious story. Like
I don't think it knew at the time exactly what it was going to be or what kind of stories it was going to tell. I think it was falling back, and I'm glad you brought up the over-exaggerated faces and the condensed specific gags. And the running with Brock underneath the frying pan to keep the rain off his head, that kind of iconic season. And the jelly donuts, the iconic translation mistake that we'll get into later.
I use my frying pan as a drying pan.
Exactly, you get it. I don't think the Pokemon anime at the time fully understood the complexities of the interaction between Pokemon, their attacks, their battles, their wants, their needs, their desires, because that wasn't established yet within the canon. And so they had to fill screen time somehow, and they knew over-exaggerated faces. They knew condensed, specific, self-contained gags. That was a fallback. You do it in any kind of theatre. And I like the fact that they fell back onto it and then slowly grew away from it.
To tell like, a more involved story as it went on. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
If you watch the later Pokemon, the gags are almost all now Pokemon based, or dramatically more Pokemon like messing around with each other or with their trainers than like the trainers. Like in rewatching a bunch of these early Pokemon episodes, like seeing like Misty's bored, so she's just going to take out her tanning bed, right?
Yeah.
Like,
which is a relatable thing that doesn't need the Pokemon to be funny. It's just a relatable, almost observational comedy style gag placed in the Pokemon world instead of the Pokemon themselves doing a gag or a skit or a thing that actually requires you to have some contextual knowledge over who that Pokemon is and what they do.
Yeah, whereas now that the Pokemon is so established, like you can just like rely on pretty much anybody watching your show to get the joke if like there's a brief shot in the background of a Drifloon holding onto a kid's hand and then you never see that kid in the background again.
Perfect, because you know that it's just an inversion of expectations. The idea is there. Whereas previously that wouldn't have been funny because you don't have the context of who that Pokemon is to make it funny. It would have had to have been the Squirtle Squad. It's a load of Squirtles wearing sunglasses and they're all being cool and they're all being a gang and they're all hanging out. That doesn't necessarily need you to know who Squirtle is. It just needs you to know that the concept of a bunch of effectively kids taking themselves really seriously is funny.
Yeah, a lot of those early gags, you're right, they're very like character driven as opposed to Pokemon driven. Yeah.
So we are moving in to a lot of Pokemon talk. So I think we should just officially say, hey everyone, welcome to the main topic of this week, which is Pokemon Indigo League. Because when we grew up, it was just Pokemon. Just like Star Wars was just Star Wars. We didn't call it A New Hope until, they retitled it later. But the Pokemon Indigo League, which is the first 70 some odd episodes of the Pokemon anime. And this was brought to us by Josh, because our guests of the podcast like to come on and pitch to us the reason why either their favorite anime or an anime that they really enjoy should be on our list of the top 100 anime of all time. And so we have briefly talked about, Josh, why you like Pokemon so much, but I would very much like to hear your reasoning, the presenting of your case as to why Pokemon should be on the top 100 anime of all time list.
Absolutely. So I'd like to start, before I push into Pokemon in general, to talk about some context over why I'm making this argument specifically. Pokemon is not the first anime to ever be created. It wasn't the last anime to ever be created. But I want to approach this from the idea of it being a cultural phenomenon over literally changing the world, changing how kids in the 90s grew up, changing how businesses acted in terms of trademarks and in terms of mascots. Effectively having a greater mouse than Mickey Mouse is a pretty impressive thing. So let's just look at it to a slightly different context straight away. If I ask someone who is the greatest martial artist of all time, a lot of people have a lot of different answers, but a lot of people will say Bruce Lee. Now, I like Bruce Lee. I don't think Bruce Lee was the most muscular guy. I don't think he was necessarily the fastest or the strongest. He wasn't the first person to make martial arts films. He isn't the last. But Bruce Lee did something that hadn't been done before, which was break cultural boundaries. He was able to bring the film of Enter the Dragon effectively over to the West, and that started the 1970s martial arts revolution and the martial arts boom. Bruce Lee effectively connected the idea of martial arts with people who did not know martial arts, which makes him, if not the best martial artist of all time, one of the most influential. If I were to say to people, who's the greatest bodybuilder of all time? A lot of people would default to saying Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger came from the silver or golden era of bodybuilding. He wasn't necessarily the first person to attempt to put on a lot of muscle. He isn't the most muscular man compared to now. We have Chris Bumstead instead. But Arnold Schwarzenegger did something that bodybuilding at the time hadn't done, and that was connect it to the common man. It was make people who didn't care about this aspect of culture care about this aspect of culture, because they were able to see him in films, they were able to see him on TV, they were able to see him as a celebrity. If I say who's the greatest Formula One racer of all time, a lot of people will say Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher may not be the first person to race a car, he's not the last person to race a car, but he was one of the first people to become a cultural touchstone that connected people that weren't even aware of that side of the sport to the sport. I want to look at people or things or ideas or events or processes that have connected people who are unaware of something to something in a way that makes them at least aware of it. They become an icon of it. Video games, we had Mario that did that. Even people that don't know much about video games, they've seen Mario. There's a reason that almost every mother for a long time called any games console a Nintendo, because that was simply what that was. The reason I think Pokemon is one of the best animes and deserves a spot in the top 100 is not because it had the highest budget, it's not because it had the greatest storylines, it's not even because it had the greatest animation episode to episode. It's because it crossed cultural boundaries and connected people who were not aware of or cared about anime to the world of anime in a way that had not been seen as strongly before. Dragon Ball Z was successful, especially over in Japan, over in the West to a degree. We had shows that came before, such as Monster Rancher, shows that came before, such as Digimon, shows that came before, such as Shin-Chan. But Pokemon was the breakout success of that era that infected the monoculture of the 90s, and suddenly everyone was talking about Pokemon. Pikachu became an icon. Every Pokemon became Pikachu. If you asked the mums who called games consoles Nintendos, what is that Pokemon? The answer was Pikachu. Pikachu is now a cultural icon. When I went to Japan recently, I was greeted by Pikachu. He's on the money in Sealand, that small country that exists off the coast of England somewhere. I think Pokemon is one of the greatest animes of all time. Not for what it necessarily is, but for what it led to, which is the world becoming interested in Pokemon and therefore connecting it to anime as a medium.
That's a pretty good argument. And I mean, I think you can also make a similar case about video games to a certain extent, and trading card games. Like Pokemon was kind of instrumental in all three of those things taking off into a greater level of mainstream acceptance than they had before. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can consider Pokemon VGC as the first esport, but they're probably almost certainly one of the biggest, and done as much to normalize the idea of esports as any MOBA or RTS for that matter. You really cannot understate Pokemon's cultural impact, right? We're from 3 different countries and we all had it as an indelible part of our childhoods. And we can talk to people, from South America, from any part of Asia, literally anywhere in the world, you can find somebody our age who has a favorite Pokemon and strike up a conversation about that. Mm-hmm. So that's, it's hard to argue with that. I'll give you.
It's a shared global connection that is very rarely seen. Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when we still had the idea of a monoculture, because we only had a couple of TV channels, we only had a couple of Sky channels, the internet was in its infancy, there was the idea, I watched an excellent YouTube video recently of the idea of David versus Goliath within the cultural world. Now we have tens of thousands, in some cases millions of different TV shows, different internet shows, different podcasts, different video games, different card games, that everyone globally can find something that is hyper curated to them specifically. And on a personal level, that's excellent because you find something that only appeals to just you, which is absolutely lovely. It's nice to have a niche interest. They are the Davids, if you will, of hobbies and interests. But the benefit of having a Goliath of an interest, if you will, even though it isn't hyper specifically curated to just you, it gives you connection to a common collective. It gives you that touchstone. It gives you that water cooler talk. It's the time when everyone was watching Game of Thrones. It's the time when everyone was watching Breaking Bad. It's the time when everyone tuned into the final episode of MASH. It's the time that everyone from the 90s can talk about Friends. Even if you don't like 100...
It's the time that everyone was playing Pokemon Go.
Absolutely. Pokemon Go, I think, was the last time that the world felt truly okay. And I have a picture on my phone that I have not deleted. When I was living many years ago where I was living, there was a bridge across a river next to an actual workout gym. And when I went down there, I discovered that the gym was one of the Pokemon Go Pokestops that you could spin. And I looked at the bridge, and I don't think people had planned this, but there were 5 people sat on the bridge in a zigzag pattern, which made it look exactly like Nugget Bridge from Pokemon Red and Blue. And I just walked over and went, "Are you guys all playing Pokemon Go?" And they said yes. And I said, "Can I take a picture? Because you've just inadvertently created the bridge bit where Gary would then walk down across and fight you as a boss fight." And they said, yeah. And I took that picture, and I've always remembered that because it was a moment when even in, the mid to late 2000s and 2010s, I had a reason to talk to 5 people at the same time that I'd never met and instantly knew there was a cultural connection between all of us because we were connected to this Goliath of culture, Pokemon. Now, if I walked up to a bridge of 5 people and said, hey, you guys all playing the Pokemon trading card game on the, mobile? One of them might say yes, but there's going to be mostly weird looks going, no, we aren't, go away. That's strange. Why would you do that? Pokemon gave us a connection. It really did allow us to see a fellow human playing a silly game about collecting monsters and go, I like that person. I'm going to be friends with them because of this Goliath of culture. And I miss those aspects.
So that was beautifully said. But as we were coming into this episode, I was feeling extremely, like, maybe not cynical is the right word, but like a little concerned to talk to you about it, because this list is very much about the best, not about the most important, right? If we were to make a list of the most 100 important anime, we're like Pikachu is fighting Astro Boy at the top, right? Like those are the two that you have at the very top of that list.
Well, Pokemon Astro Boy and Gundam.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'd put Gundam in a very solid third in that situation, right?
I would. We could. Yeah, we can.
Geoff, we would spend the rest of the episode. But like, so rewatching it, I'm like, this is a top 100 of all time best anime just on its face, because even though it does not have, objectively the best of anything, right? Mm-hmm. It is so evocative that it is bigger. It is bigger than it is. Watching it, as someone who grew up at the same time as you guys, it is too big for me to pretend that it doesn't affect me. And this list is fundamentally very personal. And so watching it, I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm having so much fun rewatching all these episodes. Like, so many things bother me about it, but like as a TV show, but like, when there is an exceptional episode, or even just watching the opening, every episode is the most unskippable opening of all time. I'm reminded of the entire world of positive memories that I've had, and so many of them tie back so directly to this TV show.
Yeah, like specifically the first couple seasons, like
first 70 some odd episodes. Once you get into Johto, most people started dropping off, and it started to not be as important.
No, I don't think like Johto. No, like people were sticking
in my area.
through.
Once Pokemon moved into Johto, a lot of people stopped.
A lot of people dropped.
It was like 151 was the real hardcore, and then when the Gold and Silver came out and brought another however many they brought, a lot of people said, "Well, I'm going to stick with the original, the 151." It's very difficult to get people to memorize even more than that. So I agree that there was a drop off. I think that culturally it still continued and is very, very strong, but I think we definitely saw a drop off, and I think that isn't necessarily because of Pokemon Gold and Silver, those eras being bad, but the fact that the internet, I think, was finally catching up at that point to provide access to even more culture. And that's when the fragmenting, the breaking of the monoculture really happened. And suddenly we had access to a load of Sky TV channels. We had access to a load of channels from the West, from the East. Pokemon, the first season, the Indigo League, had broken the mold of, hey, anime's pretty good. So when Pokemon Season 2 came out, it wasn't just competing with Pokemon Season 1, it was now competing with every other anime that people were trying to find and be exposed to. And you just had fewer viewers by that.
Including a lot of stuff in the same wheelhouse, like Digimon, for example, right?
I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Did really well as well, because the Pokemon card game led to people wanting to play more card games, and suddenly Yu-Gi-Oh! A show about a card game then came out, and people were like, yeah, let's try this instead.
No, you're right, because like I distinctly remember Yu-Gi-Oh! Being more popular on the playground than Pokemon Johto.
I got made fun of when Silver and Gold came out, that I was still collecting the cards. Like, people would make fun of me on the playground in elementary school, right? Like, so this is, that was a pretty rough environment. And if you look at the game sales, it kind of shows like a pretty significant drop.
Trends move fast.
But then Ruby and Sapphire, I think, kind of brought people back in to a certain degree.
Maybe in your area, but not around here.
It never hit the same levels as the original Red and Blue, but Ruby and Sapphire definitely brought people back.
There were times where things like caught back up. Like where in my circles and where I was in my area of Canada, we did see a little bit of a resurgence around the time that the DS came out, and we had Diamond
Ruby
and Pearl.
Ruby and Sapphire and Diamond and Pearl, I think they both gave it a shot in the arm. Like
But I'm almost curious if that was more to the popularity of the DS as a console rather than Pokemon as an IP or a franchise.
I think the DS needed a system seller at that point, and they knew that Pokemon would always be a one to push.
Well, Game Boy Advance was pretty pathetic compared to Game Boy Color, but
it was DS was a
giant, and then DS was even bigger. Yeah, and so I remember like playing with the DS, like the new Pokemon games had come out when I was in university. And like all of my friends had it, but I don't think it was necessarily something that the typical 18, 19-year-old in their first year of school was doing.
And Miles, you mentioned that you would be nervous to talk about this because Pokemon objectively on some levels of creation, on the art, on the stories, is not the best. At all. It doesn't necessarily push the boundaries of that. I remember when I was watching Akira, there is a hand-drawn frame of Akira of like thousands of lights on in one of the mega buildings of the city, and it zooms in. And someone told me, oh my God, this single panel took so long to draw. And I thought, okay, from an artistic point of view, I can appreciate how complex this is. However, Steven Spielberg famously said that he would consider video games art when they make someone cry. And that when I heard that, I said, okay, when will people consider anime art, even if it's not necessarily the highest quality drawing or the best story? And when I saw Pokemon the first movie in cinemas, the bit that still makes me cry is when Ash is turned to stone and Pikachu is repeatedly shocking him, because I can vividly remember the camera is zoomed up on a kind of medium close-up of Pikachu shocking Ash and all the Pokemon around are fighting, and then they all stop, and then the camera zooms out and it cuts to a massive over-the-top shot of seeing everyone in the arena, and the song Brother, My Brother is playing over the top, while every Pokemon is punching its effectively good or evil counterpart, and then they all start crying and hugging each other, and then it's silent as Pikachu is just shocking Ash, and it holds that shot for so long. You just see the Thunderbolts and the Lightning Bolts in the distance with the sound effects of that. That was an artistic moment that really got to me, really emotionally effective. It made me cry because the tenacity of Pikachu and the love for Ash was keeping that going. And I thought, this doesn't have the best animate. This doesn't have the best story. This doesn't have the most amazing over-the-top special effects. But what it does have is emotional resonance with me, with everyone in that cinema. And that made me cry because I was invested in that story. Pokemon did what very few shows had done or have done since, and that was made me really emotionally invested in the connection between two characters.
I do wonder, though, if going to see the movie, the people that were in the theater were a bit more invested, because I distinctly remember about a third of my theater emptied out because parents did not understand what Pikachu's Vacation was and thought that was the movie.
The little short one before. I remember that.
And then they filtered out. So we lost like a third of the theater. And I was like, where are you guys going?
Yeah, hang around. You've seen Pixar films. You get a small opening movie before the main movie. Just hang around for a bit.
Yeah. I feel so bad for those kids that got to the playground later and was just like, wait, there was more of the movie? Yeah. I don't know why you let your parents take you out, but
I do think like a lot of Pokemon's best moments are those ones that like give you that emotional, like,
it's a gut punch. Yeah, it's a real gut punch.
And I mean, the one in the movie is really special because it's kind of it's not just building on what's happened in the movie. It's building on the entire last year that everybody has been obsessed with this show, and you've been watching Pikachu and Ash become like completely inseparable. Like
it wouldn't hit the same way if you didn't have that. Like if you just went into the film.
No, it hits because you've seen that like initial arc of like Ash standing up for Pikachu to the Spearows and like them like forming that bond of we love each other, and then reaffirming that later with the episode where Pikachu's goodbye, where he's like thinking about saying goodbye.
I hate that episode. I love it, but I hate that episode.
But
that's good. That's good art.
No, it is.
That's why it's so good, right? Because it like draws out this like we don't know, and part of why it works is because like Ash already said goodbye to his second ever Pokemon in the saddest episode of the original series, Bye Bye Butterfree.
Bye Bye Butterfree. Yeah.
Which is even sadder in the original Japanese. I don't know if you know this. The thing that they cut out of the English dub is that Butterfrees die after they mate.
I did not know that. So there's a level of subtext to it.
Yeah.
And that is why Butterfree never returns. Other Pokemon may leave and have cameos later, but Butterfree never comes back.
Yeah, Butterfree never shows up in Professor Oak's, in Sun and Moon, when they go back to, I don't know if you guys have watched the Sun and Moon anime. It's probably the best in terms of like production quality Pokemon anime out there, in my opinion. You can also argue for Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet, but
no Black and White mention. Black and White was great.
Black and White has a good story. I think that everything from the original Pokemon series to Sun and Moon is somewhat held back by the character designs, trying to go more serious anime instead of what Sun and Moon does, which is going more cartoony, which allows for like really crazy animation and stuff. That's a
different discussion.
But like in Sun and Moon, there's a 2-episode arc where Ash and all of his friends from Alola go back to Kanto. They go back to Professor Oak's lab, and they see all of the Pokemon that Ash has caught across every Pokemon series hanging out in Professor Oak's backyard.
But they don't have Buddy number 1. They don't have his first catch.
They do not have Butterfree, because Butterfree's dead. But yeah, like Pokemon is really good at that, like at just creating that feeling of friendship with each Pokemon that Ash adds to his team, and that like there's a real love there. There's a real love between him and Bulbasaur, and it's different between the love between him and I kind of don't like that those 3 episodes, the Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, are all back to back. I feel like they would hit stronger if they were spaced out a little bit more, and it didn't
out of it. Yeah.
It didn't just feel like, okay, so we're going through the formulaic Team Rocket episodes, and now we're going through the formulaic introduce new Pokemon episodes. But like,
now I love the fact that you brought up Spearow. You said the Spearow attack. When we said that Pokemon is grounded in this idea of, to compare it to Digimon, Digimon is super over the top. And I know that we all love that in a design point of view, but it's sometimes hard to connect to it in a relatable way. It's very difficult to understand what a young boy who has a massive, 20-foot fire-breathing robot dragon is going through. But you take the Spearow episode, Pikachu is injured, he's in the basket of Ash's bike, and he's literally trying to pedal him away from a load of Spearow. If you change that to just an injured cat or an injured dog trying to escape a flock of birds that's attacking you, that is a very grounded, a very real situation that a child could find themselves in, that a child could empathize with and understand. I think one of Pokemon's greatest strengths was that, yes, Pokemon themselves are fantastic, but the relationship between a Pokemon and a trainer was effectively the same that a child could understand, being a relationship between a beloved family pet that you want to care for.
And that's why Misty got Togepi, so that she could be the mom.
One of the interesting things about that like universality, one of the moments that really made me cry, and I remember distinctly just being a little bit inconsolable for like half an hour after watching it when I was a kid. In the original series, the final Indigo League challenge, where Ash is at the Pokemon League and he loses that final battle. Like they sell that feeling of defeat so effectively, that like frustration of like someone else is that little bit better than you. You lost your dream. And like it also ties into Ash's arc through the entire series of like he really loves Pokemon, but like his enthusiasm outpaces his expertise, and he's
even his effort sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Charizard is his foil at the end is something that has been built up for what, like 40 episodes at that point.
And it's really good because
Ash barely had any expertise to begin with. Let's be fair. The amount of times that even like Brock and Misty are like, wait, how did you not know that?
That's first like, episode where he's like fighting a Pidgeotto and he's like, I know. The caterpillar, that'll stop it.
And Misty's like, I'm not even a bug trainer, and I know that's a terrible idea.
But I'm glad that he lost. He needed to lose that because that set up one of the best arcs of you can have all of the enthusiasm, you can have all of the love, you can have all of the energy, but sometimes you do need to just knuckle down and study to make sure that you get all of the skills, and so your final victory is earned. Now, Miles, you mentioned Charizard, which I really appreciate, because the character of Charizard and the growth of Charizard throughout the first series, I absolutely love, because as a kid, I hated the arrogance of Charizard. The, why are you not doing what your master, your commander, your trainer is telling you to do? And that's when I realized, hang on, Pokemon aren't mindless creatures. They are beings. They are living. They are breathing. They're existing. Charizard has his own desires, his own thoughts. And when he finally realizes that actually Magmar is pretty damn strong, he needs to fight this dude and prove it. He's not doing that because Ash told him to. He's doing that because he wants to be able to prove he can beat Magmar in a fight. And I love the fact, from a video game point of view, that in the original games, if you just trade yourself a really high-level Charizard from a friend's game, which we all tried to do, he won't obey you until you get the relevant gym badges, which was a beautiful way of tying video game mechanics to narrative pacing
story,
within an anime that I haven't seen done again.
One of my favorite early episodes is fighting Lieutenant Surge, where the only reason Pikachu can beat Raichu is because Ash is like, well, Pikachu hasn't evolved, so he learns his moves earlier. So he can do all this agility stuff. Can your Raichu do that? And I love how it's in the second version of it, because as a kid, you're playing it, and it's very often that you'll lose to a gym leader. And that feels terrible at the time. But then you think, oh, well, actually, Ash lost to a lot of gym leaders too. And like, again, that kind of... And he went right back, and he did it again, and he tried, and he learned from his mistakes.
He loses to Brock. He loses to Surge. He loses to Sabrina the first time.
He loses to most of them. There was even a joke, I think, when he went up against AJ, that he didn't really earn his badges. They were kind of given to him out of pity. And
I think we'd have lost a lot of characterization of Ash if he'd have won. We don't want this overpowered, always winning, perfect character. We want the underdog. We want the guy that fails and wins through tenacity. We want the guy that comes back all the time.
Although
modern anime fans.
Yeah, I do actually think that dynamic over the course of the Pokemon series does get a little bit frustrating, because like they're in keeping with the like old school cartoon Showa era roots of the original Pokemon series, which I consider that original run to be from Indigo League all the way to the end of X and Y. Like Sun and Moon is the start of Pokemon being something different. One thing that's really frustrating about all of those is like every time Ash gets to the Pokemon League and then loses in the last round. And it's just like it becomes as much part of the status quo as Team Rocket showing up every episode, which I do feel is like it's a strength of the series in that they're incredible characters, and every time they show up, it's very entertaining. But there's also some episodes like the Charizard, or not the Charizard, like the original Charmander one, where I feel like not having Team Rocket show up to cause a problem and just having some kind of direct confrontation with Damien would have been a much more emotionally resonant way to tell that story.
Pacing wise, you're absolutely right. You're spot on that as soon as it becomes predictable, then there's no point watching any of the episodes because you know exactly what's going to happen. And the first season, the Indigo setting up the loss was definitely unpredictable because we all just thought, oh, it's an anime, it's a cartoon, the main hero is going to win. And when he doesn't, we're like, oh my God, this is different. We didn't expect that. This is Game of Thrones for kids. This is excellent. Yeah. And then when it suddenly became the status quo of he's going to get to the final match and then lose, I wouldn't have minded if he lost in like the first round of a tournament, then be like, oh my God, I've got to hang around while watching the rest of the tournament. How do I deal with this now? The feeling of failure of watching everyone be better than me or winning some other tournaments somewhere else. Pacing wise, I completely agree that after Indigo, they definitely need to take a look at how they can do it better.
And I mean, one of the many things that I really like about Sun and Moon is that like they really start mixing up what they're doing with Team Rocket. Like they've got there's like 3 different evil teams sort of in Sun and Moon. There's like the Aether Foundation, which isn't really evil, but they're like mysterious. And then there's Team Skull, which is just a bunch of dips.
Team Skull.
Like just idiots. They're just idiots doing crimes. And then there's Team Rocket, and it's able to mix up which one you're dealing with each time. Plus, there's Ultra Beasts coming out of another dimension. So there's like different problems, but also they like Team Rocket in that season. They're kind of sick of being criminals. They like they're still doing it. They still try to capture Pikachu every couple episodes just to do it. But like most of what they're trying to do. Most of what they're trying to do across Sun and Moon is actually set up a legitimate business of a malasada cart. Because, like, turns out James cooks really, really delicious malasadas. And they're just, like, trying to get this business off the ground. And all of, like, the fact that their Team Rocket just keeps catching up with them. And, like, sometimes, like, they're just, like, there selling food, not in the middle of an evil plan at all. And like Ash is like, you guys, and like he ruins their lives.
What I love about the season 1, I'm glad you brought James up specifically, is there is no denying that in season 1, James is a very effeminate man, which wasn't necessarily a super popular kind of way of showing a man on TV in the 90s at the time. Men had to be Arnold Schwarzenegger from Commando. Men had to be this kind of real tough, real stoic vibe. And as soon as James comes along with his much more comfortable in his sexuality, much more effeminate, and a great cook as well, it was a really nice thing to see a villain have depth to him where he wasn't a bad guy, but he was a bad guy.
I mean, like his whole backstory with like him actually being rich and like running away from that's such a great little twist. I think
James
Pokemon
is bad guy, but James is not
bad guy. He's like a good
I mean,
Kaiba, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, like the thing is, the core Team Rocket trio, they're all very sympathetic villains when you get into what drives them. And that, like, you know, I like how the first season goes like slowly establishing that these guys there's more to them than you think, and like they're likable in some capacity, and then it introduces Butch and Cassidy, who are just awful, and like it creates this contrast of like, okay, so here's some real bad guys we can bring out when we need some real stakes, but also like you kind of feel for these three losers and all of the stuff that they've been through. To your point about male role models, though, I mean, I think that's something that appeals to anime, to a lot of people about anime in general, is that like effeminate men have been a part of anime since basically the beginning. There's, you know, like Tezuka's got effeminate male characters, and like masculine female characters, and like that's, you know, you can look at James, the way that they depict him with like the sparkles around him and the flower petals and stuff. That's very much a direct reference to shoujo manga and shoujo anime, and maybe even like Rose of Versailles anime. I think that might be where a lot of those techniques originated. But like across Pokemon, you've got all of these different role models, and most of the guys don't fit into that like hyper masculine role. Like Brock is out here hitting on a different woman literally every episode, Mr. Serial Monogamist.
Well, assuming you believe that Officer Jenny and Nurse Joy are in fact different women and not the same woman.
There's a picture of 9 of them together.
There is a picture of 9 of them together, and like
in later seasons, we do see a bunch of Joys all at once.
Yeah. I actually have like a headcanon theory about Joy, which is that her name comes from their name comes from their absolutely exhaustive parents after what must have been like 40 hours of labor, looking at this pile of babies before them, and the dad's just like, well, there's our little bundle of joy.
Beautiful. That's it. Make it canon.
How do you feel about these kids? Well, they definitely spark joy.
Yeah.
Stick it on Bulbapedia. It's canon.
But like Brock, like he's womanizing, doing the Johnny Bravo thing, but then he's also like the most attentive to like the needs of Pokemon. He's the group cook. he's like, he puts on an apron and he cooks for everybody.
He's the bard.
He's not just Johnny Bravo, because Johnny Bravo was a very one-note, this is the comedy of this character. Brock works because he has variation. He has depth to him, which I really like.
He's got the kids that he's looking after. I love that character moment at the end of his episode where instead of laying into his dad for abandoning him, he's just like, okay, so Sally, she really likes to have a snack before bed, and Tommy, he needs you to read him a story. And just like he cares about people. He's a nurturing figure. And then like the firebrand of the group, the like one who's most likely to pick fights is Misty. So she's like a big tomboy, and most of the like Poke girls that join Ash for a season kind of fill that tomboy role in different ways. Another thing I like about Sun and Moon is it has like a bunch of supporting characters and breaks up the Brock, Ash, and one other person dynamic that's been going forever.
The trio dynamic was definitely set.
Or the times when Brock disappears for reasons.
Yeah. And Ash also, like, the things that make Ash admirable aren't like his rashness or like, sometimes he gets angry on behalf of good causes, and that's that emotionally resonates. That's something you look up to. But like, it's really his like compassion and empathy for the Pokemon that he meets that's what really makes him a great character. And like, basically every episode you see Ash being kind of a dickhead for a while, and then like he actually has that moment of like, after butting heads with a Pokemon for a minute, he's like, okay, I get you, Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur gets him. And then they like, even if he doesn't capture that Pokemon, they're like
He's
buddies
learned.
For life. Yeah.
Yeah, he's understood. Now, one thing I'd like to compare it to that I think is super important is we mentioned Digimon earlier, and we mentioned Digimon going through the Digivolution process of you have Digimon in, basic prime form, battle happens, they digivolve into whatever they need to be, they win the battle, and then they go back to the prime form. It is a temporary transformation if it needs to be. The Digivolution is not necessarily treated with a serious metamorphosis behind it. It is a solution to a problem.
That's the tokusatsu. That's the tokusatsu influence, the Power Rangers. There is
an episode with Pikachu where Ash very seriously considers using a Thunderstone to evolve to a Raichu in order to win the battle. And that decision is taken with a huge amount of serious respect. And I think that episode, actually, it almost scared me as a kid that a character that I'd become so connected to and so, ended up adoring would permanently change into a form that I no longer recognized in order to win a single battle. And as a kid, I ended up kind of having this internal monologue with myself of, would I accept a permanent change in order to achieve something that I needed to achieve right now? And I think the level of the weight that was given to that, you can take a Thunderstone and win right now, but you will never be who you are again, was so emotionally evocative, so powerful to watch. And I'm really glad that the evolution of Pokemon was treated with such power and such respect, because it made the process of evolution feel permanent and important. And it links back to that idea of continued narrative structure, of the status quo can change.
Yeah, I wish that they leaned into that, though, a bit more. Like, I would be curious on the alternate reality in where Ash did do that. But I know that the Pokemon franchise doesn't, they like bringing that topic up a bunch. So like later we had an episode about Eevee. Eevee's all about evolving all over the place. But the Eevee of that episode decides, no, I'm just going to stay as an Eevee. I'm not going to take any of the stones and be like my brothers and sisters. We're not going to do that. But I would be very interested to like know what what would have changed about the story and how different it would have been had Pikachu taken the Thunderstone.
Indigo League version 2 alternative history where we evolve to a Raichu and see what happens.
I mean, I think we do get a taste of that through Charizard's story, though, right? Because Charizard and like Charmander for a while is Ash's kind of ride or die, and when he evolves into Charmeleon, he's still like his Pikachu's the ringer, right? But like
Charmeleon is the teenage phase. It's the
I was
teenage.
about to say, yeah, he's the moody teen.
Charmeleon was like the first. No, we're not listening to Ash anymore. I don't think Charmeleon listened to Ash at all, ever.
Which is great. That's a lovely dynamic to add into a show, especially that kids are watching and they realize, oh my God, I don't like Charmeleon anymore because he's not following the authority figure that I respect and care about. And kids they're capable of self-reflection. And I'm sure many kids at their teenage phase realized, oh my God, I'm being a bit of a Charmeleon right now.
Yeah, no, it's a great character arc. And then when he evolves into Charizard, obviously he gets even more arrogant.
Dude, that episode is so good with Aerodactyl. Like, rewatching so many of these episodes in preparation for this conversation, again, like, it's kind of absurd. And sorry, Geoff, I'll give it right back to you. But like,
no, it's okay. Go ahead.
It's kind of absurd that I was, again, feeling very negative about like, oh, Pokemon's not going to make the list. But it feels great to watch Pokemon. It feels great to experiencing these things. And, I watched a couple of them with my kids. I watched a lot of them at the gym. Like, and I felt like I was getting pumped up at the gym watching like that Charmeleon and Aerodactyl episode. Like, that was like something that was personally very inspiring to me. And I'm like, that's crazy that this, over the course of 25 years since that episode aired, right? I'm still feeling so emotional about
invested.
it.
Yeah.
So invested, knowing exactly how it's going to end. I don't care. I'm in it.
I like even in the early episodes, there's a lot of like moments. Like, I mean, the Spearow chase has like.
Well, I mean, that was before like we really had the status quo of the show. So that was the end of episode 1, and then you move into episode 2, and it's like, no, like Ash's got to get to a Pokemon Center. Pikachu's not doing all that well. This isn't like the rest of the series where they start the episode and the narrator comes, Ash and friends is traveling down to. No. It's like crap just happened.
Trouble.
We just we gotta fix it.
I mean, the 2-parters that they drop in throughout the series, they all kind of like when I was a kid, one of my favorites was when they're all on the SSN and the SSN crashes, and then like
I have that VHS.
See, the Rockets and the kids have to survive together, and then the Pokemon have to survive together alone. That's just such a great little arc. I also, Digimon hit more for me because the Digimon could talk, right? They could go through their character arcs, and that's like, to me, the evolutions reverting didn't really bother me that much because the Digivolutions were earned through those character arcs, right? They're like Champion, they get for free just from wanting to connect them, but like each of them has to embody their crest to get that second Digivolution, and then going to Mega requires a step beyond, right? That only a few of them achieve. And seeing the Tamers and the Digimon go through those arcs together, the way they bond really hits. And like, I think there's a lot of good dialogue in there, but Pokemon does so much wordlessly with just the animal behaviors of these Pokemon. And it starts doing those like charming little interactions from episode 3 when he gets the Caterpie and Pikachu and Caterpie have that little silent conversation where Caterpie
Over
looks
the moon,
up at the moon and Pikachu's like, oh, I understand. You got something you got to do deep inside. You like, and every Pokemon, despite not talking, has like a very distinct personality. And the evolution of their relationships is slower. And I think something that bothers me about watching Pokemon is how often it resets. And like at the start of the episode, it's like, oh, here's Ash being an idiot about something. And then like, he's going to learn his lesson. And then at the end, everybody's going to respect him, even though they don't respect him at the start. Like he goes through that with the Bug Trainer Samurai. He goes through that with, the dude who whips his Sandshrew. There's just, there's
he still doesn't learn his lesson by the time that they go and not Sabrina, the bug trainer. Shoot, what was her name? Erica there. Like how he cross stresses and sneaks in order to get in there. Like it's just because he doesn't care. He's like, how dare you not let me challenge you?
There was one thing that I kept laughing out loud, even in publicly inappropriate places to do so, was Pikachu. That is one sassy little child.
Yeah. Oh man. In the first season, like he's so his just little expressions are so good.
we had talked about like putting Spy Family on the list potentially. Like that's something that is worthy of conversation. And I'm like, honestly, Pokemon gives me the Anya fix pretty
with
good.
Pikachu. Yeah.
With just Pikachu, because Pikachu is so sassy. And like, especially in those earlier episodes, just like what a jerk to Ash in the funniest ways. And just like, yeah.
I mean, even when they start, like,
Diva.
The thing is, in later seasons, Pikachu's just his little buddy, right? And like, just kind of a Care
I think
Bear.
there was also the bit of a change because for a lot of the early episodes, Pikachu had the sass, but then Pikachu also had the damsel in distress because Rocket was still a reasonable threat sometimes. They had some good, like, Roadrunner, Coyote, Acme style plans, and some of them legitimately worked until their own hubris caught up with them.
I like that run where, like, Meowth is just like, are we really doing a giant vacuum again? Just
it worked so well the last time.
But I do, there's that episode where they're like, we're wearing rubber suits now. That's like, they do feel like a threat, but I don't know. Like Pikachu's kind of just there reacting a lot of the time. And that's like, even once he becomes friends with Ash, he still gives him crap a little bit. Like he still like rolls his eyes and he's like, oh, that's my dumbass trainer right there.
Drama is conflict, and when you have conflict between the main characters, especially in a kind of non-violent but still slightly respectful way, that's always interesting to see those dynamics of two people who ultimately want the same goal, who are going to work together, but aren't always necessarily the easiest people to work with. That's a lovely dynamic to see. Now, one thing I do want to bring up in relation to the narrative direction that I really like is the inclusion of the Pokedex. And the reason that I like the inclusion of the Pokedex is one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Star Trek: The Next Generation. And if you guys have seen Star Trek, the original series, or The Next Generation, I absolutely love when the plot of any show is just kind of go and explore. Your whole job is to discover stuff, because that gives the writers such a breadth of stuff to work with. And when Oak gives Ash the Pokedex and says, hey, there's a lot of Pokemon out there, go and find them. It's not about defeating the big bad guy straight away. It's not about, going to reclaim any kind of lost treasure. It's literally, hey, we don't know what this world's like. Go and discover it, which brings the audience, the viewer, on the same adventure that Ash is going on. We are literally discovering at the same time, which gives the viewer such a bond with Ash. His job is to go and find stuff that he doesn't know about. Our job is to go with him and do the same thing. We are effectively the fourth group member.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the really magical things about the synergy between the Pokemon anime, the Pokemon video games, and even the Pokemon trading card game to an extent.
Opening a pack is discovering, man. Especially when you don't know what's there.
And when each new one comes out, like, oh, now there's these jungle Pokemon. Now there's dark Pokemon. Ooh, there's, each pack, each box is a discovery.
And you spend like 3 years wondering, what the heck was that bird that Ash saw in the first episode? When's that going to come back around?
Oh, there's a theory about that. The theory is that it's the wish-granting Ho-Oh. And Ash's wish was to be a 10-year-old going on an adventure.
Forever.
Which is why it was granted, and he is now a continuous 10-year-old going on a Pokemon adventure forever.
And if Ho-Oh didn't show up, Ash would have died from the Spearows and the Thunder.
Yeah.
And so the reason Brock is able to keep traveling with him is because he has a really good skincare routine, right? No, so actually the Pokedex thing is so funny because like it was like the Taurus episode, which was harder to watch. The Taurus are running at Ash, and he was like whips out his Pokedex and like, oh, that's a Taurus, right? Like he knows the Pokemon. He's at least done his homework a little bit, but then he's in grave personal danger, and he's still like, but I gotta know a little bit more about this Pokemon coming at me. And it's like, if I were crossing the street, I'm like, ooh, what kind of car is that? And then I'm getting hit by the car as I'm like pulling it up on, the AI tool or whatever.
Ash was way too invested in that. I think he forgot at that point that Pokemon are animals. They're wild animals, and they are dangerous, and they have desires of their own. At that point, he was experiencing everything through a screen, through being told. And I think that kind of danger, I love the fact that you brought the Tauruses up with that danger of the Safari Zone brought it back to him of, hey, you've got to be careful while you're doing this because these things are still dangerous.
And then he got back at them by catching like 50 of them.
Which in that Sun and Moon recap episode, all 50 of those Tauruses show up again.
Are they all there?
Yeah, all on Professor Oak's ranch. It's a bit of a problem. It's a really good episode. They
Nice
bring back
callback.
Ash and Brock and Misty too. And it's a real good nostalgia time. Yeah, that feeling of discovery though was so addictive when I was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, of just like, you know, each new episode is a new Pokemon, right? And, you know, like as I'm playing the game, each new area, I get new Pokemon and I get to learn a little bit more about this world. But like the show is especially with the dub is really effective at making you want to like discover all of that stuff. And it does that, you know, through the individual episodes, but also that apparently not very well composed song, the Poke Rap, which like is, you know, even if you don't think it's that musically brilliant.
Well, hold on. Don't contend that. Don't give that up. Don't do that.
Okay, I won't. You know, you're right. I will not give that up. It's a great song, but like, it's amazing marketing. It's such a genius idea to like, it folds Gotta Catch 'Em All into both. You got to catch all of these Pokemon. Here's all the Pokemon that you're going to see over the rest of the series, and you got to know about every one of them. It's also got to catch each episode because each episode only has 1/5 of the Poke Rap. You've got to watch at least 5 episodes of Pokemon to get the whole Poke Rap. And by watching those 5 episodes, learning the Poke Rap, you start memorizing the Pokemon. And once you've got the Pokemon memorized, you're like, well, I gotta get a card with at least every one of these on them. And, you know, like maybe all the toys are at least my favorites. And like you really start forming some strong opinions about what your favorite Pokemon is based on knowing all of them, right?
Hey,
Sudowoodo, good
Sudowoodo.
choice. I'm not gonna go grab it, but I got my Feraligatr and my Totodile up there. But yeah, like the more Pokemon you know, the more attached you become to your favorites, but also the more you want to know more about all of the Pokemon. It's such a genius way of like tapping into a kid's basic curiosity. And
it connects to everything. It really does. And the Poke Rap is an excellent example because songs are much easier to memorize than just long list of anything else. We remember songs. Now, I'm scrolling down through the list of characters within the Pokemon anime, and one thing that jumps out to me is, and again, this is a slight tangent from what we were on, but because there are so many episodes of the first season of Pokemon, while I don't think that it's necessarily the responsibility of a show to teach kids anything if it doesn't want to teach them anything, I find it excellent, very respectable when a show can approach difficult topics in a way that children will be able to relate to understand, and to talk about in a safe way. And I love the fact that Pokemon has Lavender Town. And I love the fact that Pokemon does not shy away from an entire town effectively dedicated to death. And in the games itself, when you are playing through the graves of Pokemon, you are meeting people who have lost Pokemon. Many children have lost pets. And the idea that there is a town dedicated to the process of this, the grieving of this, and the understanding of this, I think is a beautiful thing. Digimon is brilliantly animated, but I think Pokemon really went to town with the brutal reality of, hey, look, there's death in this world as well, and this is going to happen, and we need to deal with that.
Well, I mean, Digimon deals with death at least once a season whenever Leomon shows up.
But like Goku, he always comes back.
Josh, absolutely. Like, honestly, there's so many things, and, you know, the little ones I've got are watching Pokemon here and there, and I feel like it's a bit more substantial than a lot of other things they're watching.
I think it's got like a lot of really good moral lessons for kids built in there too, right? Like Pokemon is about fundamentally empathizing with people and creatures who are different from you, right? Like you can see every episode of this original series as Ash sort of discovering a different point of view, and sometimes that's through like another trainer, like I keep blanking on the Sandshrew kid's name. AJ. Yeah. AJ, like AJ's approach, his like tough love is still love. And like you see them butt heads, but then at the end, like they're both like, okay, I get your approach to Pokemon and your approach to Pokemon, and we both like kind of connect. But then, you know, each episode where they bring a new Pokemon onto the team, it's not just, ooh, cool Pokemon, I'm going to catch it. It's like they become friends over the course of that episode, and like you get a little bit of that values. Pokemon's point of view. Eventually, you understand where Jesse and James are coming from. Like James, you know, James has to prove that he's more than just his family, and Jesse wants to, you know, assert her own identity and strength in the world, and like there's like layers there, and you kind of come to like them, even as you're like, oh, these guys again, right? And you know,
and then you have the contrast of Sabrina with the psychic Pokemon, contrasting with Koga with the ninja Pokemon, which are very much looking at the mental domination versus the physical domination, and the cultivation of the idea of mental strength versus the idea of physical strength, each of them taking what they believe to be the most important aspect of life and refining it while necessarily ignoring the other aspect. And Ash, through his journey, is able to come to terms with the fact that each of these elements is needed within a strong team. You need mental resilience and physical strength to be able to overcome these challenges. And I appreciate that.
You know, there's other good messages too. Like it's a very environmentalist anime, especially like this first season, like
Tentacruel and Tentacool.
Very Tentacruel and Tentacool, but like, yeah, I mean, if you read the Pokemon Adventures manga, it gets even deeper into this, but like, a lot of the initial aesthetic and like design of the original Pokemon, like it was inspired by Satoshi Tajiri's experience growing up catching bugs and making the bugs fight, right? But it was also inspired by growing up in the Kanto region of Japan. And I mean, you've been there now, right? Like you've seen, did you go up Skytree when you were, yeah. So you've seen how like, the city of Tokyo literally stretches from horizon to horizon.
Oh, it's dystopian in all aspects. It's a full-on cyberpunk city. It's incredible, but at the same time, it swallows you up. It does. You can't get back to nature. We had to go out of our way to find a forest.
The thing about, like, one of the really interesting things about the original Pokemon Adventures manga, and this anime is like, a lot of the environments that they're walking through are what the Tokyo area was like before it was developed, right? And a lot of the sort of environmentalist messaging comes from Tajiri growing up and seeing these woods that he used to play in as a kid become houses and apartment buildings and convenience stores and just this entire world being paved over. So when you play, like, especially the original Red and Blue, the like sparsely distributed settlements are kind of like a way of him recapturing that part of his youth. Or like the Game Freak team in general recapturing that part of their youth. And like,
it's kind of crazy it took until Gen 2 to get Heracross, though. Just from like a bug collector standpoint, like that is where you start as for Pokemon, I think.
Well, I mean, no, you can't go right to the King Rhinoceros Beetle. That's like, you know,
you got to
like,
spend some time, and you got to make your Mr. Mimes, and you got to make your
pincers. And you know, I like Pinsir's a good
Pinsir's
fighting bug.
Scyther's great too.
Scyther's great.
Scyther was my favorite. And Pokemon, if we go back to the games, there was, again, another binary between if you're on the playground, were you a red or were you a blue? Which game you chose was very important. You didn't realize at the time when you were buying it, but I obviously got Blue bought for me by my mom when we were in Toys R Us, and I now retroactively know that was the correct choice. Blue was objectively better. And I'm only saying that because I got it bought for me. Had I have had red bought for me, I would have been a red kid instead. But the idea that there
like
was a limitation within the game, and you needed to actually find someone that had the other game to team up with and trade over. It was one of the first video games that had actual real life physical meeting up and trading to complete built into it fundamentally. And that, again, from a marketing point of view, was genius.
Yeah. It's also so good, like, if you're a kid, right? It's so easy to like make a friend with just somebody else who's got a Game Boy. And like, you know, even if you've both got blue or both got red, you might have a different, you know, you might have caught.
You can only get one of the Eevees. In the game.
you might have spent your time in Viridian Forest to get the Pikachu, and they don't know where the Pikachu's at. You know,
they might have moved the truck to get Mew. You don't know what they did. They might have had an uncle that worked for Nintendo. You cannot move the truck to get Mew. You can find the keys on a seat in the gambling zone, but you cannot pick them up. You can, however, get to the truck. That is a thing that exists in the game. Have you guys played Red and Blue and you've got the truck before?
Yeah, you have to, Brilliant. But you have to hold off on going to the SSN until you have
There is a way that you can do it even when the SSN is gone. I made a full review on Pokemon and I realized this. Because when you walk onto the tile, if the SSN is gone, the guys tell you, hey, go back, and it forcefully sends you back a tile. But if you walk onto the tile and immediately pause the game and then save the game, when you load the game back up, you are on that tile, but you have not triggered the talk to me NPC flag. So then you can immediately press down and walk one tile south and get to where the SSN would be.
Man, the code in the original Pokemon is such spaghetti. It's like but there's so many like game-breaking glitches that you can trigger just by pausing when you walk in front of somebody, right?
You can get Mew in the game. Mew is coded into the game. You can, I mean, it was originally only accessible using either a Game Freak cartridge or going to a special event where you would put
where they traded in, yeah.
But and I'm sure you guys have done this, if you trigger a very specific fight with a very specific trainer as you walk to the Pokemon Collector Bill, and then you pause the game, then you either fly or teleport back to a Pokemon Center, you don't pause or unpause, and then you get into an encounter within a specific bit of grass, the random number generator where it looks for which Pokemon you encounter uses the number from the previous trainer that was meant to battle you, which happens to be Mew at that point.
Yeah, that's a crazy glitch because you've got to do like multiple pause teleports to like set it up. And I mean, all of the glitches tie back to that tutorial battle where he catches the Rattata.
The Pidgey. Missing
or the Pidgey,
Missing
the
has
Pidgey.
become absolutely ubiquitous with Pokemon glitches.
I mean, like, the crazy thing about that is, like, not only does that enable Missing No, like, every kid got Missing No by doing that at some point, right? Mm-hmm. But, like, you can execute arbitrary code in Pokemon. Like, it's such a beautifully broken bit of code. And one of my favorite stories about the early development of Pokemon is, Gen 2, Satoru Iwata, they brought him in to refine the code of Gold and Silver. And his code was so much more efficient than what the original Game Freak team developed that they were able to put most of the Kanto region back into Gold and Silver as a playable area for the post game. Like, that only happened because Iwata literally like cut the amount of memory that the game was using in half.
Gaming coding is absolutely wild to me. You guys have probably played the hit Bethesda game Skyrim before, or you're at least aware of Skyrim. The opening sequence of Skyrim, when you're on the cart all the way through to Helgen, to the dragon attack, to the escape, that is such a pile of jank that modders just don't touch it. People have looked at it and said, if you change anything in this, it breaks. If you stand up in the cart, it breaks. If a rock spawns in the wrong place, if a butterfly flies in, it breaks. So that's why the most popular mod for Skyrim has you start somewhere else, because people realize the easiest way to deal with the code is just not deal with the code. We start somewhere else. Pokemon very much speaks to me in that it was made by people who used all the space on that cartridge, but my God, they did not use it that well. It was all used, and it was all crossed over, but oh man, the fact that the 13th slot in the item bag also related to the missing no encounter, which has allowed you to do the item duplication glitch, mental stuff.
Oh man, getting 99 Master Balls, the greatest feeling.
Pulling out the trading cable at the exact right time with you and a mate to make sure you had the Pokemon on both systems at the same time. That was what you could physically do. You could start a trade with an actual link cable, wait until they had it, and then just pull the link cable out physically, and both games would save the Pokemon as existing on each of them.
But it would delete the other Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, no, we could clone them. I guarantee it was a cloning thing that we could do.
But it would delete the other Pokemon that was being sent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah,
Here's the thing with a lot of Pokemon stuff is that it's so hard to keep what's real and what was just a schoolyard rumor.
Okay, because I'm sure I remember doing it, but that might be a mismemory of mine. Because I'm sure that they cloned it on the other one, then they deleted it from the first one, and there was a moment of time when that.
No, you could do that. But there was a sacrificial Pokemon that was getting traded in the process.
So you're supposed to unplug it after the first Pokemon gets sent.
Yes.
While the other one's sending, and that causes the second one to disappear and the first one to appear on both systems.
So that's how it was cloned. I understood.
Yeah. We do need to start talking about the list, unfortunately, because we could go on like this for infinite amounts of time. So we have a list that tentatively has everything that we have talked about in previous episodes up till now. And the goal of the final little bit of our episode today is to try and figure out where on that list Pokemon goes. Okay, going top down, the list is at present. Bakano, Pat Labor 2, ReZero, Chi-Hyafudu, Frieren Beyond Journey's End, Princess Mononoke, Princess Jellyfish, Odd Taxi, Apocalypse Hotel, The First Slam Dunk, Royal Space Force, Takupi's Original Sin, Dungeon Meshi, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, Dandadan, Konosuba, Project Echo, Cromartie High School, Golden Boy, Space Adventure Cobra, Panty and Stocking, Cleopatra, Queen of Sex, My Dress Up Darling, Final Fantasy The Spirits Within, and Pompo the Cinephile. That is what list we have at present.
It's a good, strong, solid list.
Except Pompo the Cinephile, but that one's not good.
That's still like a 4-star movie. It's still pretty good.
It's still on the list for now.
Now, one of the problems of judging the best of anything is we have to really be hyper-specific on what we are analyzing the best as. And if you're judging the best music, is it the best guitar solo, the best drum solo? If you're judging, the best film, is it the best action film? Is it the best comedy? Is it the best rom-com? Is it the best horror film? It's really hard to compare and contrast apples to oranges with this. And I know that obviously anime all shares the same medium of being anime. But because we've got so many other variables, it's going to be really difficult to place a show that may not necessarily be objectively better in any of those variables, but is culturally potentially much more impactful. So how do we weight cultural impact versus objective creativity?
We don't.
That's the thing. We don't.
So cultural impact is not important to this list, but our personal biases are. And so this is where it comes in. So Josh, from your perspective, the way you were pitching this to us, I felt like if we don't include the first movie into this Pokemon, like Indigo League, we're doing kind of a disservice to ranking Pokemon, because you do consider that to be part of this
I think
package.
The first movie is almost like a capstone on top of the Indigo League. While I understand that it has relevance to the series that came after, to me, it very much sits as a complete package. The Indigo League ending with the first movie. And if you really like that, then you've got loads of more other stuff to go and consider.
Yeah. I mean, in my brain, the package is Indigo League and Johto. with 2000 and my favorite Pokemon movie, which is the third movie, mixed in.
I mean, as much as I do love Pokemon 2000, and I almost feel like it would be a disservice to the package to have Johto on it by comparison. Because I feel like out of the original, out of Pokemon the first movie, out of Johto, out of 2000, I feel like Johto is the low point of those. And especially Orange Islands is in there, and we're completely ignoring Orange Islands.
It isn't Orange Islands comes in Indigo League. It was a filler arc.
It was after Indigo League. Ash finishes the Indigo League, but before they moved into Johto, because Gold and Silver hadn't come out yet. We hadn't moved into that era in Gen 2 yet.
But it's considered part of villain. It's considered part of Indigo League in terms of like the production
episode. Indigo League has 70 or so episodes, and the filler arc I think is considered like 78 to 82-ish.
Yeah,
I think.
Although I mean, it's kind of worth keeping Orange Islands though, because then you can keep the Orange Islands movie, Pokemon 2000. I consider that to be the Orange Islands movie, even though they're not in the Orange Islands. I mean, it kind of is. Tracy's
there. My good old boy Tracy that everyone forgets. But yeah.
And
I think we can all agree that it's Indigo League and the first movie with some extras.
With some extra stuff.
Some DLC.
But I mean, like...
Pikachu's Vacation, man. I mean...
Oh, that's included. That's included in the first movie. That's got to be there.
A lot of the best episodes of Pokemon are those filler episodes, though. The ones where it's just, hanging out, getting to know a cool Pokemon, doing some goofy stuff, Team Rocket shows up to cause some trouble for 5 minutes and call it a day. Mm-hmm. The ones with continuity are good, but it's sometimes you just get like one of those gag episodes embedded in your brain.
It's the same as Star Trek The Next Generation. As much as I love seeing the plot progress and seeing the war continue, sometimes it's nice just to have Q turn up, do a little bit of shenaniganing, and then go away. And I'm like, all right, nothing has changed, but that was a great half an hour of TV. Pokemon can be fine when you don't necessarily progress, but you do understand emotional growth. You do understand a connection. You've learned something about the world you're in or the world you're interacting with. Mm-hmm. And I think that speaks to a strength of the show in general. That a filler episode is still enjoyed. There are very few episodes in the Indigo League that I would say, oh, you can skip this one, don't worry about it. Because everything has something that goes for it.
I'm trying to think if there is an episode I would say. It's probably because there are so few episodes that are like sort of skippable that I'm like, you might as well just watch it.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get something out of it. So looking at that list specifically, my eyes are drawn to Princess Mononoke. And the reason for that is I think that Princess Mononoke had effectively almost as important a cultural impact within the West. It's one of those films that introduced a hell of a lot of people who maybe didn't catch the Pokemon wave into anime itself. They'd say, oh, what anime films should be... If someone came up to you and said, I've never seen an anime film before, what should I watch? I think it's a safe bet to say that you can recommend Princess Mononoke as a first film.
For me personally, if Pokemon was turning on the TV and I'm watching the girl in the ring, then Princess Mononoke was her grabbing me and dragging me down the well in terms of like my life story.
Yeah, totally get it. It's a really good one. So I think Pokemon is definitely in the top third of that list. While not necessarily being at the very top because of its contribution to anime as a medium, I think it needs to be high up for a contribution to anime as a cultural impact, as a cornerstone, as a touchstone, and as a personal almost motif of many 90s kids' lives.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily always like the best things. I'm a massive fan of the first Power Rangers movie. I think Ivan Ooze is one of the greatest villains.
Ivan Ooze is so good, man.
He's brilliant. He eats every single scene he's in. I even like that stupid film, Action Boy Now, Action Girl Now, while they have a fight in a construction yard. It's objectively terrible. And then the final third of that film, they're for some reason in a jungle with a very skimpily dressed woman. Not complaining, but it did not make any sense. But I love it. And I will defend it as being enjoyable. I feel the same about Pokemon. It's enjoyable and it changed the world we live in. So I think it potentially deserves to be above Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within.
I think I'm definitely comfortable with putting it above Final Fantasy.
I don't know if it could go above Princess Mononoke. Though.
Yeah, there's a big
culturally powerful thing.
So if we're talking about most of the things on this list are things that me, Tristan, and Miles have agreed do one thing the best or close to the best. You know, like when we talk about Konosuba, it's because it's on there because it's so damn funny, right? It's one of the funniest things we've ever watched. Chihaya Furu is near the top because it's pretty much the best sports story ever written.
Free Run is an excellent exploration of the tropes of what happens after the fantasy adventure has finished, which is a lovely, lovely touch.
And in terms of like Pokemon's production values, right? Like, I don't think it's winning on art style.
No, it's low.
I don't think it's winning on animation. Like, I was actually kind of like, when I was watching it initially, I was taken aback by like how old school the animation is. Like the animation, I've been watching Speed Racer a little bit.
The film. Or the anime.
No, we watched the film together. The film's one of the greatest movies of all time.
There's a great YouTube video on that.
I've been watching the original series just because it's free on YouTube. Because the Anime Men, they did that big apology video where they actually started like, this is the whole thing. Doesn't matter. But I've been watching Speed Racer, and it kind of struck me how like of a piece a lot of the comedy and the animation in the original series of Pokemon is with those older school anime that have like limited animation and like they focus on doing like a goofy pose or the characters falling over when something crazy happens. So like production wise, there aren't a lot of things that I'd say are the best, except maybe the dub. I would say that Pokemon has one of the all-time greatest dubs.
And for 4Kids, that's very surprising.
It's what put 4Kids on the map. It's got like a ton of like great little things. Frying pan, drying pan.
Intro song. The intro song, the Pokemon song, became super famous. I went to it's going to sound silly. I went to a rave last year that literally opened by doing a drop the beat to the Pokemon opening, and everyone just went wild for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's as much a cultural touchstone as any song that we grew up on, and like, yeah, the music in that was great. I had a whole CD, the 2BA Master Pokemon CD.
I had that on cassette tape.
Hell yeah.
One of my favorite. I mean, you missed out because the CD had some interactive stuff when you put it in the PC too. They really went
getting very Monster
Rancher
Rancher with that point. Interactive CDs and capturing stuff.
But like the Pokemon dub is just great. There's so many great things about it. This is super abstract, but one thing Pokemon has more than almost any anime on this list and almost any anime I've seen is, and this is going to sound cheesy, but it's true, it has heart. It's just bursting with heart. It's like just full of love and empathy and good vibes, right?
It's a guy who enjoyed catching bugs in real life saying, I can make a show about this. I can make the bugs really complicated. I can give them personalities. I can give them heart. I can make one of them a little electric mouse that will eventually become bigger than Mickey himself. I can make one of them a fire-breathing dragon that's not going to listen to his trainer. It's an adventure that I enjoy going on because I enjoy the people that are on the adventure, and I enjoy the adventure they are having because it's simple, and yet it is, as you say, it's earnest, and it's full of heart.
But the question then becomes, how do you rank heart against everything objectively else? Great animation and cinematography?
Yeah, these things also have heart. Everyone that made these animes they put their love into it. They put their care into it. They wanted it to be good, apart from maybe Final Fantasy The Spirits Within. I have a personal vendetta against that film for just ruining Final Fantasy and for my family. Like, I wanted to get my mum and my dad into video games, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a Final Fantasy film. This will definitely do it. Nothing turned them off video games faster than being forced to watch The Spirits Within.
When's the last time you watched it?
The Spirits Within? I think I've blocked it from my mind, and I'm going to continue to do that.
Oh, man, we had a lot of fun on our episode about it.
Do I have to watch it?
It's so good. It's so
like,
good.
Watch Advent Children afterwards as a palate cleanser.
I mean, definitely do that. Like, the thing is, as an anime, not great, but as a distillation of every single 90s action movie is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you guys you're lucky that I went with Pokemon, because I was going to go with an anime called Jibiate that I watched before. I don't know if any of you have seen Jibiate. I nearly said it just to make you all watch
just
it.
to torture us. I mean, I wouldn't have to because I've already gone
It's so
through that.
bad, that
I
one.
mean, I would end
don't know,
up
I
doing
think
it again,
Pokemon-
but I have also watched.
Oh, it's so terrible. But Pokemon, you are right. It has heart. I think if we're judging Pokemon as where does it fit on a row of the best, its strength, which I believe is its cultural impact, is not something that we are going to be able to rate it against the other anime. So its greatest strength, how it literally changed the world, is not something that we can add on to it. So if we're judging it without that, even if we all kind of acknowledge it exists, judging it without that drops it down the list. And I'm okay with that because at least it's on the list. And I think this list is going to exist and be cared about because at some point, a lot of people watched Pokemon.
Right below right below Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust.
I like Vampire Hunter D. I enjoyed that. That was one of the first animes that I watched. It got me into it. If I hadn't have watched that, I probably wouldn't have watched Pokemon. So, yeah.
That's a very interesting order to watch them in as a small child.
I would, I think I'd put it below Project Echo.
Below Project Echo.
I wasn't a massive fan of Dan to Dan in general. The first episode really put me off.
Fair.
I would
that.
advise continuing to watch it because it's.
I'll try. I will try. But the fact that Pokemon is on this list at all proves that the little bug hunter that could was able to change the world and become relevant.
Probably about with Geoff. I think just below Project Echo, or even just above Project Echo, if we wanted to drag it up a slot, I would be fine with.
To me it feels good because like Project Echo and Pokemon are both mainly vibes based adoration for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love both of them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of the vibe.
Yeah.
And
Could be nostalgia glasses, but also the vibes.
We're allowed to do that.
works.
We're allowed to
I
have
know.
nostalgic feelings about things. I feel strongly. When I watched Pokemon this time around, I was just so fucking happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to be real with you. That was one of the reasons that I chose this. Pokemon is important to me, but when you approached me and said, hey, I want you as a guest on Quest for the Best, first of all, I was honored. Then I thought, hey, I could be a bit of a dick and make all these guys watch Jibiate. And then I thought, no, these guys are putting their time, their effort, their energy, their very limited kind of free time, because I know you're all busy, into watching whatever I choose. So what if I choose something that I hope and I think that we would have watched as kids, that we would have liked, and that rewatching would have at least brought a smile to our faces for a couple of hours?
Yeah. I mean,
you succeeded in that.
It definitely did that. Like I've been falling asleep watching episodes of Pokemon and
In a good way.
Digimon. But like legit in a good way. I just put it on and it's so soothing. There's
some good vibes. There's some
it's
good
really
vibes
comforting.
there. You enjoyed it, and I hope it was at least an enjoyable few days or weeks for you.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, like it did actually prompt me to go watch Digimon 2, which was the interesting thing because I was like, I remember Digimon being a lot better than this. And now that Pokemon is on the list, I think we're going to have a conversation in the future about Digimon on the list.
We have so many Digimon guest potentials too, because there are so many people who will tear our heads off if we don't have it on the list. So I can't wait for that because that'll be a good conversation. So where are we at? So just above Echo, below Echo?
I mean, Tristan said above Echo. You said above Echo.
I mean, I would be fine either above or below. So really, Miles, it's kind of up to you on that one. Where do you feel like you would put it above Echo?
I mean,
yes.
He said above Don to Don. So
I think it's above Don to Don for sure.
So I think above Echo is a pretty fair place to put it then.
Yep, I would agree.
Welcome to the list, Pokemon.
Which I think basically guarantees it
in the 100.
In the 100, yeah.
Well, considering we are desperately trying to get Golden Boy in the 69 slot, that means it's doing pretty well.
We'll see about that. But I think it's got a pretty good shot to stay on the list forever at this rate.
It could.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you for listening to my justification and my argument for why Pokemon is one of the greatest animes ever made and why it deserves a slot in the top 100.
Well, I
for
mean,
the best.
Yeah, thank you for making us watch it. Like it was a really good time.
There was a great deal of power that you handed me when they said, hey, watch every episode. And as much as I wanted to say One Piece, I needed to be on this podcast before we all die. So I thought, yeah, we'll do Pokemon. We'll go back to we'll regress for a little bit. We'll relive that childhood nostalgia. We'll go and see what happens when Ash is cycling past all those Fearow, when he's Charizard's fighting Magmar, when he's losing his first battle and learning tenacity, and then when he's finally effectively, and Mewtwo delivering one of the greatest lines in cinema history, which is, I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that defines who you are. Who'd thought that a genetically engineered Pokemon in a film from 1999 would have dropped one of the hardest lines of wisdom of all time?
One thing I do a little bit... I'm a little bit sad about with the Pokemon movie. Like, I still think the dub version of it is good, but the little bit of backstory that is in the original Japanese cut for Mewtwo, have you seen that?
Is that the one where you see them in the test tube being created?
Yeah, in the lab, his
Yes.
initial escape and all of that.
And the scientist
there
says
in the English version.
we set out to create the most powerful Pokemon, and we succeeded.
Or it's more expanded, or there's like an extra episode or something. There's like this girl that he had a connection with.
That's the remake movie.
Oh, that's the remake movie. Okay.
Mewtwo Returns.
No, but I feel like that detail was... maybe I'm just misremembering.
It would have fleshed out Mewtwo's character of having a human connection with someone to show that the Pokemon Mewtwo was so close to understanding humans and yet so far because of his physical strength.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like now I remember there being something cut from the original dub of Pokemon, but now I can't remember what it was.
We've all got to go back and watch. There's nothing we can do about it now.
Yeah, we'll just have to watch it again.
Do you have anything to plug, Josh?
Not particularly. I've got a lot of projects coming up. If you're based in the UK, I've just finished hosting a TED Talk. I'm hosting a rave in Liverpool at the end of the month. I'm doing Magic the Gathering podcast with the Mana-splaining guys, which is what I've been building the Magic the Gathering deck for. I'm working on a feature film all of November, which I'm super excited for, but it's got to kind of stay under wraps. I know, really excited about that. Turns out one of my viewers was a film director, and he said, hey, do you want to audition for something? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Then it turns out it's quite a big project. Apart from that, I'm going to be putting out YouTube videos on the main channel, Josh Strife Hayes, on the retro channel, Josh Strife Plays. I'm currently reviewing Cyberpunk 2077. Spoilers, average at best.
I have to... when you say that, what? Because I love Cyberpunk 2077.
What a French goodbye. Oh my goodness.
I think we're going to have to sit down and have a debate at some point about this.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Next time on Quest for the Best, Howl's Moving Castle.